We're ready. I don't have to. But then nobody can see me.
Sometimes I put duct tape on it.
Hi, okay, we're on. So, good evening, everybody. This is the advisory committee. It's February 4th, 7 p.m., and we're meeting as we do every week to discuss departmental budgets and a variety of other things that affect the finances of the town. Just before the meeting begins, I just wanted to just make a statement to the audience about what it is that the advisory committee does. It's just going to be short and sweet. I'll take less than a minute. As many of you know, we meet from January through town meeting weekly, and we review all departmental budgets and committee budgets. We do this painstakingly. We look at every item in the budget, and we make recommendations for town meeting based on the reviews that we do and the input that we have from the department heads and other people. In addition, we look at capital expenditures, and we do that to give our recommendations at town meeting, and also to come up with different ways that we may be able to finance the different expenditures. And really what we're doing, even though this is time-consuming, we feel it's essential in order to be able to plan for the town's future and its financial requirements. Thanks for letting me do that. Okay, so tonight, our first order of business, we have the school committee members, and I'll introduce them in a second, and the assistant superintendent. So we have Nancy Federspiel and Lorraine, and now I'm going to get this from Moscow. Right, good, and George King. So thanks all for coming, and this is on the heels of a couple of meetings that you've had regarding your budget, the budget for 2015, and some of us on the committee attended your workshop meeting, which was Saturday, which went over the budget in quite a bit of detail. And just as an overview, and then I'm going to give you guys plenty of time to talk, the fiscal year 15 recommended budget for the Neshoba Regional School District is $50,516,022, and that's a 3.72% in total increase over the fiscal year 14 budget. When you, or $1,809,958, and then that amount, the budget gets adjusted in a variety of ways, and then there is an assessment that is then an amount that's assessed to the towns after certain local receipts and grants are reduced from the budget, and that leaves $37,601,083 to be divided among the towns. And based on a variety of formulas, and we'll talk about that, what has happened is for fiscal year 2015, the increase to Bolton is 4.83%. So first, I guess whoever would like to begin the process is discuss an overview of what this budget this year, what it is, and why the increase, and what you're accomplishing by it, and I'll let you three decide who wants to talk.
I just want to say before we do that, I know I said it once, but I want to say it again. Thank you to the Bolton Advisory Committee for coming to our budget workshop on Saturday. We had 4.5 hours of going through in great detail our budget. And just for everybody's knowledge, and I think hope this is helpful, that the budget that we're talking about mostly on Saturday, and we'll talk primarily about tonight, represents a small portion of the budget, because 80% roughly is wrapped up in personnel. And I just think that that's a valuable piece of information for people to have. Anyway, George, do you want to talk about the main, where the major increases are?
Yeah, the budget overall is a level services budget, as it was highlighted on Saturday. There's not really too many new and exciting things in the budget. The cost mainly represents what carrying forward our present services are. There's a couple of adjustments both up and down for enrollment. There are a couple small initiatives. One is a potential change in our kindergarten, so our early childhood, which we would would be the first step over a multi-year process that we hope will eventually be a full-time kindergarten program over probably the next 4 or 5 years. It'd be, this year, the idea would be to make all the kindergarten classes full-day classes, and people would still have the option to send their kid for a half a day if they so chose. They simply would send it to a class that instruction is a full day, so some of the peers in the class would be staying in the class for the full day. Then also we have a situation where we're adding a preschool class in Stowe. That's our other early childhood initiative. There's also 2 positions proposed for a counseling social worker type approach. That's the number of positions we need. The exact way we would propose to fill those positions, whether we use actually a social worker, a guidance counselor, a school psychologist. That's still up in the air a little bit. We're still talking and working that through. But the program would need 2 positions, and the cost of the program would be the same pretty much, which of those types of approaches we decide.
Is that that's in this year's, in the 2015 budget? And where does that appear, the social worker? Is that under?
It is in the special education budget.
That's in the special education.
You know, so those are really the major changes. As I say, it's pretty much carrying forward the budget as we've had it. I'm not sure anything else really much else to say in summary about it.
No, I think so. I mean, unless there's
specific questions. That's a brief summary.
Well, I mean, the things that, and maybe, I don't know if you want to go through line by line, but what struck me was the tremendous amount of the increase, or what I thought was a large amount of the increase related to special education, both in the non-salaried piece, 475,000, and then in transportation of 167. And that almost seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, is a piece that you don't have much control over.
Right. I mean, most of the increases in those line items are from our other district tuitions, and the non-salaried line item is from our other district tuitions. And as the special education director explained on Saturday, we just happen to have a little spike in cases requiring other district placement right now. And those are very expensive placements. And over the period of the last 10 years, that's been a very, very stable line item for us, which is unusual. Most school districts struggle with that line item tremendously as their budget buster, and often are looking for ways to backfill that every year. And we have not had that issue. We still don't have that issue, but it is a fact that the number of students we're sending out, which is historically for several years now been in the low 20s on average, is going to now be probably in the high 20s, or likely to be in the high 20s. And that represents most of that increase in that particular line item. The other aspect you point out is the special education transportation. We're in the process of preparing a new contract. We're up for a contract this year anyways. But our present provider went bankrupt kind of unexpectedly in November, so we had to switch the contract at the end of December, and we're in the final stages of putting that on the touches on that. That number conceivably could, change a little bit as time goes on, but I don't think it'll change substantially.
George, if you could just speak a little bit. What was surprising to me on Saturday was, I think it would be helpful for everyone tuning in, is could you just speak to the math in terms of whether it's school choice or special ed, in terms of whether it's whether they're from an outsider coming in or placement going out, in terms of what that means to the budget.
Yeah.
Number one. Number two, what would be great, and I thought the special ed woman that spoke Saturday gave a good description on, from when she came 8 or 9 years ago, there was 60 kids out, and she was able to bring, but the question is, bringing them in, that was going to drive up cost on the collective. So what would be really great to see is, what's the net of that? It's great to know that the kids are coming back in, and maybe they've got a brother or sister in the school system, great, yeah, but what were the costs of that program 9 years ago? What are they now? And by bringing them in, is it a savings to the district? So an example like that, the athletic director, I thought, did a great job on explaining the desire for a van. Same thing. If it's costing X for a van, a bus, but it's not getting utilized, and the game plan is to go buy a van, then show us over the next 3 years. What does it cost? What's it cost to maintain it? Net, is there a savings? I think that is gonna better position you guys in the future and just collectively allow all of us to get an understanding, especially special ed, 9 million on a 50 million. And I recognize, now I know, a lot of it doesn't matter. It's coming from the Fed or state, and you guys have just gotta deal with it. Subsequently, we have to deal with it.
So just don't use the word school choice though, because that's really confusing. There's no
All right.
school choice involved in special ed.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but my understanding is that we've got 200 kids coming in to our
50 going out.
environment, right?
Right.
So what does that do in terms of taxing the entire system? And they're coming in, and what do we get, $5,000 for a kid? But it costs us 17 going out?
No, no.
So, a couple
No,
things.
so that we're getting two
Yeah,
issues.
probably just to separate out this, start it with the special ed piece.
Yeah,
because
special ed and school
it's really-
choice have to be.
Right, and the
So
charter,
you
maybe
know where I'm
charter
going
and
with
school
this?
choice could be.
So,
Right, so just to briefly put that aside, there are different ways kids go out of the district. Outplacements and special ed are a totally separate issue. We also have students that go out to school choice, which means they go to another public school district in the state or to a charter school. That is completely separate from special education. They do represent a cost in the budget. The cost is different. And these students going out to school choice, for the most part, you pay $5,000 for that student going out. Just as these students come in, we get $5,000. Right now, as you stated, per year. Right now, as you just stated, we have 200 kids coming in this year. We have about 80 going out, so we have a net. We make money right now on that particular calculation. Charter school, students who go out to a charter school go out at the full per pupil price of the district, so closer to $12,000. That's the way the law is. We get a small credit and reimbursement back on that, so it doesn't net out exactly that, but the base tuition is the full per pupil. The special
Just interrupt. And of all the kids going out, how many of them roughly are charter school?
we have about 38 going out to charter schools.
Out of- What'd you say, it was 60 in total?
No, 60 is the.
50.
Yeah.
No, there's three numbers, none have to do with special ed. 36
It's all in.
students a year go out, or so 36 to 38, I can't remember off the top of
Okay.
my head, to charter schools. I think it's 36 actually.
Hmm.
About 80 go out to school
Oh,
choice.
so that was incremental to the school choice. All right, that's where I
And
was.
another 200 come in.
Okay,
But the thing to keep in mind when we talk about these subjects all the time is generally more than half of those students going out, both to charter and to school choice, we've never seen. They just happen to live in Bolton, Lancaster, or Stowe, but they've never been in our district. For whatever reason, their parents decided from day one, maybe they moved from somewhere else and left their kids in the past school, maybe they worked there. For whatever reason, we've never seen those students.
so they've been out from the get-go.
That's correct. We've
Okay.
never seen them. Maybe they went to a parochial school for a while and went somewhere else. There's a lot of private schools. There's lots of different reasons, but more than half of them we never had in our district. So they're not all kids leaving our district, but by virtue of the law and their residency in the three towns, the district has to pay a per pupil on those kids, be it the amended per pupil, so to speak, for the school choice, or the full per pupil for charter schools. That's the totally different programs, not all related to the special education outplacements. The special education outplacements go to schools, private schools, which are set up essentially to receive, in almost all cases, special education students with needs that cannot be met in-house. And the special education team in the schools determine that is the best placement for them to meet their needs. It's the least restrictive environment for them to meet their educational needs. Those placements are extremely expensive by the nature of what it is, specialized education. And Tracy has more expertise on this than I do, but
Incredible range.
the range is incredible. Probably the least expensive you're going to get in almost every case is somewhere in the low to mid $30,000 range, and that's rare. They can go as high as several $100,000, for a full-time residential placement, which is very rare, but some instances we would be responsible for. So that's where the other line item comes from, and that really, as Nancy said, has nothing to do with any of the other programs. That's just simply a requirement of the state law to provide all students between the ages of 3 and 22 educational services. So, we're responsible for every student who lives in these three towns, provide them education, and when they have special needs, they require the ages we're responsible for are ages 3 to ages 22. So that, as Tracy stated on Saturday, about 10 years ago, we had about 60 kids going out, and that budget was substantially higher and not as stable. As she also stated, there's been different ways about, to lower that number. One of the ways is we have created more programs within our schools to accommodate some of the needs we may have possibly sent out for in the past. I understand your question, and I appreciate where you'd like to go, and I certainly cannot do that for you here. And I'm not sure.
I'm not asking for it here
Yeah,
tonight.
and I'm not sure we can recreate the 10-year history, because it's usually not apples for apples. In other words, we don't usually say, okay, we can create a program for this one particular student in the school. Instead, we would create a program that would have our ability to create and to meet a certain range of students, which then would give us those options. And we also have the option occasionally of we tuition in students to our programs. If we have a program that another district doesn't and has to outplace the kid, they sometimes may outplace them within our program. So to specify that, I'm not sure, especially to create a 10-year history, that I could do that for you. But I think
correct. I apologize if you misunderstood. I'm not exactly looking for you to go back in the past, but I think it would just be helpful when there's scrutinization on the budget, on increasing costs over and over. And if someone is only focused on cost, right, that's what we're going to look at. And so, but if you can, those types of examples where you can demonstrate by saying, yeah, we did increase costs, but because of that, we did. So I know what you're trying to do with going out and buying the van, so prove it, right? If that's going to help down the road for when you ask for a second van.
Sure, but we're not creating any new special education programs here, so I can't make that comparison, particularly this year. I mean, when we can make it with the van, we'd be happy to make it, and I think a lot of times we do, and I think we run a very efficient operation and often can do what you request, and be always happy to do it whenever we can, whenever an item lends itself to that.
How much of our total budget is devoted to special education, and how does that compare to other school districts, either with the same size budget or with the same size students, or I don't know, if there's some other kind of criteria that's
I don't have
people
those,
in the education industry would.
I don't have those comparison numbers, right now. Overall, we spent, we spent just about $10 million on our line of special education.
So it's about 20%.
About 20%.
Okay.
And, on the other hand, we serve about 20% of our students with special education too.
So, I think,
Because not every student goes out, 20 go out, but 400, I'm sorry, not 20% of our students, about 10% of our students, but over 400 kids receive special education services.
Okay, so it's 10% of the whole student population.
12 or 13.
12 or 13% of the whole student population gets some kind of special education assistance.
That's correct.
Okay.
what I'd like to, first of all, let me just ask a couple questions, and I want to give Randy a chance. As I understand what the process for you guys right now is that this is like the beginning, the beginning was of having your schools come in and give you their budgets. And then this doesn't get finalized until, it's not required until March 15th. You're going to finalize it at a March 11th meeting. What happens between now and then? Are there, if we were to look over the details of the budget, because it is, I've got it all printed out here in multicolors. There's a lot of information. Is there a possibility that items might be, I'm not going to say raised, I'm going to say cut, that there might be areas that can be reduced during this 1 month that you're going to be looking at it?
I guess there's a possibility. I mean, in terms of what's going to be happening starting tonight, in fact, I'm going back and hopefully in 7 minutes or so.
We're going to get you out of here.
To the teacher negotiations sessions, and so that will impact a huge portion of the budget, obviously. And then the school committee is combing over all the documents just as you have them, and asking questions. We asked a lot of questions on Saturday. as I said earlier, there's only, 20% of the budget that's in this non-salary piece. Sometimes the small levels are surprising, when you would think that we'd have more of an impact or an opportunity.
Oh, I think we're in a very similar position, because if you take the town budget, over 60% of it is schools, take that out, and then if we were to remove the union, our union
Right.
Employees, we can do that too. But we still feel that if we can find ways of savings, and also, better understand where the monies are being spent, then we can, affect the total town budget, and also, possibly tax rates and other things, and where there might be other ways we can spend money. So I encourage you to do that. When I was looking at it, and I'm going to turn it over to you, it's just that the increase in facilities is probably an area where I see there could be discussion. Does the roof have to be done this year? When you're looking at such a large, percentage increase that, like I said at the meeting on Saturday, we were not expecting such a big number. So I think it would be, I'm hoping that you'll be, doing that kind of thing, really going through the areas that you can affect change. Randy?
Okay, so I'll be quick. I have a few questions. So to just piggyback off of Terry's point, so I've been through, I wasn't at the meeting on Saturday, but I've been through some of this on my own. I think what was helpful, and my memory escapes me, I think it was either last year or a couple of years ago, when the assessment was higher than expected, there were these tiered reduction scenarios that were considered, which I thought satisfied at least my concerns years ago that the budget wasn't properly stress tested. And so I think I would encourage you to do that. I think you're going to get a lot of pushback. I'm still sort of in shock as to the amount of the assessment, especially to Bolton. I suspect that Lancaster and Stowe are having similar sticker shock at this point. I think that's important to do. I think last year or the year before you did A, B, and C, and they were each taking $100,000 or so out of the assessments, or reducing them a point or something, 1 percentage point. I think that's something I think you need to ask George and Michael to do. I think that's where it came from last year. I don't think they're going to just do that on their own. So that'd be my first point. Second would be, I guess I'm also disappointed to see the E&D fund be used in a similar fashion to the way it's been in past budget cycles. Again, I will say that if you use $1 million of a $2 million fund and it always gets replenished at $1 million, and you have $2 million to start the next year, then you're really not using it. And even though you think you're using it, it gets replenished. It's sort of the same scenario that we have in town, where we try to push free cash to the bone, and it keeps coming back. We have our own set of problems, but we've at least lowered the amount of our targeted minimum free cash every year in trying to use that money in the current budget cycle. I haven't seen you guys use more than $1 million.
Well, your free cash has grown.
It has, but that's a problem for us. We don't want it to grow. We've reduced.
We received a bunch of grants and reimbursements that were unexpected, and that's why.
Yeah, but George, the difference is that last year, when I started at advisory, our minimum free cash that we refused not to spend was $700, and then one year it was $500. And last year we made it $250. We've tried to infuse the budget with more and more and more in an effort to drive that down. I haven't seen you move your $1 million in several years.
How low are you spending yours this year, just for comparison's sake?
We don't know yet.
Oh, okay.
We're working on it, but I can guarantee you that we're going to continue to try to apply it to the budget and not have it replenished at $1 million.
And what we do with it, when it has come back, is that we use it for capital expenditures in order to not have to borrow, which may be, you can look at, that's our policy, but you might look at that and say, we've got some capital items that are coming to us. There might be a way of using some of that extra E&D against the capital expenditures and not bringing it to the town, which would then help our position and help all the towns. just, these are thoughts, you know, we obviously are not.
Which benefited
running
you
a-
guys last year a lot, I say you guys meaning the school, because most of the money we have, we put into school projects, capital improvements.
But the point is that we've reacted to our growing free cash by being more aggressive in applying money to our budget, so that we don't have $1.2 million. I don't think you need $2 million. I think if next year you came in at $1.5 million, it'd probably be a win, but what that would mean this year is 500,000 less of an assessment to the towns would happen, and that's a great thing. So I just encourage you to look more at that.
I think, you know, we could argue and discuss the theories of free cash use, E&D use, let's use free cash term just interchangeably for now, all night long. But we have replenished pretty close to what we've had. And frankly, the last 2 or 3 years, it's been surprising because of what you just stated, or what you just stated, I'm sorry, last minute, I made some things we weren't expecting. 1 year was an infusion increase in Chapter 70, a change in the health insurance plan was another year that we were able to save money. So the reason we were able to do that was because we found efficiencies that we went on during the year. I think one of the things that I'm most proudest of over there is that we look for efficiencies all year long. Just because the money is appropriated, we don't say we're going to spend this down for the last dollar. Just the opposite. And that causes our free cash to be a little bit higher than maybe other school districts. So I think the fact that we do regenerate the free cash really should be to our credit, not to our detriment. That's number one. Number two, we could assure ourselves that we weren't going to generate $2 million of free cash and spend $1.5 million of it, okay? And that would be great. And you're right, that would reduce your assessment a little bit if we chose to do that this year. And that's a decision, I guess, ultimately anyone, you know, in the school committee can make. However, I am, you know, one thing that I've learned the older I get and weathered myself through many municipal financial crises, but, you know, dating back to the early 1990s, is next year really does come. When I was young, next year seemed a long way away. When I'm old, it seems like the next day practically, okay? And next year really does come. So we spent $1.5 million this year to supplement the budget. I can guarantee you what's going to happen next year. We'll be able to spend probably tops $500,000. And that's going to cause a $500,000 rift, you know, in everybody's assessment the other way. So it's a 1-year fix. If this was a particularly bad year, maybe that's something you look at, okay? But I don't see this year as being so bad that I would recommend that. I would contend, and maybe not correct, it's my opinion, that it's in the interest of the 3 towns to have a reasonably stable, fiscally stable regional school district. So every time something happens, we don't have to come back and say, we don't have any money for this unexpected thing.
But George,
and if you look at,
But
I'm almost done.
Sure.
And, you know, as we've grown, we went from 10 years ago from being under state control board, okay, that cost everybody a $4 million bond, to really one of the most financially, fiscally healthy and stable school districts in the state, regional school districts in the state. I think that's in everybody's interest. And if we shift $500,000, it may make a big difference this year, but it's going to make a big difference in the other direction next year. I guarantee that will happen.
But I understand all your logic.
Okay.
That would be fine if it was year 1 or year 2. We have multiple years of track record here that something always happens that replenishes to $2 million. I'm not making a snap judgment that 1 cycle you didn't use it, or 2 cycles. I'd have you go back, I think this is probably 4 cycles now, where it's been replenished back to its original level. And that's why I'm reacting to it.
Right, but I can give you some of the details as to why it happened if we wanted to get to that.
No, I'm sure you can,
okay?
but it means it still happens though.
But I think that would
Right.
be, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah,
If
but that
you-
would be helpful.
That would be helpful if
That would be
you can,
helpful.
if you can get that
But
information.
it's things like, you know, when we hire new people, if we have a position and we find a teacher who's less expensive, maybe less experienced, the difference in salary there is $25,000. Things like that. When we negotiate with our employees to change our healthcare benefits, that was like a $300, that's on top of my head, so don't hold me to it, but that was like a $350,000 savings in a year. We had already budgeted, went into the year, we changed the health insurance to all the co-payments and that type of thing. Those are things we did during the year. If we weren't fiscally responsible and didn't care and said, well, it doesn't do us any good, we were just saying, you know, we wouldn't do this, this is not any of our employees to do it.
we don't want you to
No, I know you
spend
don't.
money, but, you know, for myself, I would like to see that reconciliation of what your target was and how you ended up where it was.
We don't have a free cash target.
Okay.
Well, maybe just how it replenished unexpectedly over some of the major things would be helpful. And then just one last question. There's been a lot of talk about school, the four-letter word school choice, right? We've put the kibosh on new enrollment, understand. We have
K through 8, yes.
200 in, I'm sure that's a cap number. To the people that advocated for less school choice or less students coming in, what would you say your capacity is over the 200, still keeping class sizes at the optimal ratio? And the reason I ask is, what you should be able to tell people is, listen, one of the reasons your assessment may be a little bit higher is because we cap school choice. We could bring in 100 more kids and still have a 24-to-1 ratio, and that would bring in another $100,000 of revenue, or I guess 50,000 in your math on 5,000 a student. But do you have those kind of figures in your head? What's the
number of spaces in each classroom? No.
Like,
I mean,
what's the capacity
we have
of
it,
200?
not in
that
our
you
head,
could-
though.
Is it significant or is it marginal at this point?
It's different for each town, isn't it?
Well, it's different for each classroom.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally, so if there's 4 first grade classrooms, there might be 1 seat in this classroom, there might be 1 seat here.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd have to count
Yes.
them up, which is what we did.
Yes.
But now that it's new entries into K through 8 have been blocked, and
Yeah.
now we're only doing that at the high school, and there's a cap of 100 in the high school, 25 per grade. So I'm not sure why we would want, I mean, unless
No, I'm just saying, what you could
you
say
think that it was
is...
a poor decision and we should
No,
reopen that.
I'm not judging the decision. What I'm saying is, people asked for this. Well, that's going to cost money. In this budget cycle, that costs X, right? There is a number
So
out
in
there.
this
What's your
budget
opportunity-
cycle-
What's your opportunity cost of not
Right,
filling
but-
those seats?
But what's happening is this is just all the students that are in K through 8 as school choice students are still there, except for kindergarten now this year. And so then next year will be, except for kindergarten and grade 1. So the impact in one given year will be very small, because there's still all those school choice kids
That need
in
to flush out.
1 through 8.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly. So it's going to take 9 years to go through the cycle.
Nutrition.
Understood.
So I think that
Because you grandfathered people that were
Right,
already
right,
there. I understand.
So the impact in one given year, I think, is very small,
Okay.
if that answers your
So
question.
it does. I just want to, put it into context for some folks that wanted this, and
Yeah.
we all knew that if we got this, that there would be an opportunity cost, to Bob's point, that we wouldn't be able to fill it to the max, and we'd lose out on 50 grand of revenue a year that would ultimately be passed on in an assessment. I think that would be interesting to know.
Right, so there's also a whole, I mean, not that I want to make this a discussion about school choice, but there's a whole nother way of looking at that too. So,
Okay.
because we know that the per pupil cost for, if we take our total budget and divide it by the number of students we have, it's roughly $12,400 per student, per pupil cost. So that's what it's costing us to educate one student. School choice kid comes in, we get $5,000. That's it.
Yeah.
So, it's penny wise and pound foolish.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
not, no, so what you're telling me is it's not a big amount.
so I,
Well, that, and it also has some negative impacts, so you're not gonna get
Pure revenue
rid of
driver.
I want to just offer the, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to say one more thing, unrelated to that, but I thought it might be helpful, and after Saturday's session, and after all the emails that have been flying around town, I know we've all gotten them, right? Okay. There's been, I haven't added to the email, but I've been listening, reading. I thought it might be helpful for people to know our per pupil cost as compared with our surroundings town. I brought the issue up on Saturday. I've since done a little digging and have some, a bunch of towns that are around here, and lo and behold, our per pupil cost is actually below the state average. So in regard to how that relates to the emails, it's difficult to hear people say, well, tax rate is so high because we're spending so much on the schools, when relative to other schools, we're not spending a lot. It's a lot, don't get me wrong, I know our budget is, a big portion of our town's budget is the school assessment. I totally get that, but I hate to see it become a blaming game. It's because that darn school district is spending so much of our money, when we're actually, our per pupil cost is lower than the state average. And when we get demands from the selectmen and others saying, why aren't we higher in those rankings? It's such a mixed message. We want to be higher in the rankings, we want to have the best school district we can, and yet we don't want to spend any money on it. So somehow we have to reconcile that. And I just
But
want
I
to make
think
sure that it's...
some of the points that we're raising, and what, some of them that you can't walk away from though, is that if your budget goes up 5%, okay, in a year, and we can only raise property taxes by 2.5%, then we're already starting off at a disadvantage, right? And something else needs to give. Nothing else can get 2.5%, nothing else certainly can get 5%. It's got to be somewhere between 0 and 2.5% to make that equation balance. And you can't, I understand your points.
Well,
You can't walk away from that.
numbers.
Right.
Say again?
You're applying percentages to different numbers. Your property tax levy, the 2.5% is higher than your assessment. So 2.5%.
It is, but...
So I'm not saying...
No, it is certainly higher, George, but it proportionally, the 600,000 eats up more than, it eats up so much of our incremental 2.5% on our levy limit that there's very little left to spread amongst.
But if you look at
that's the
I totally
problem.
understand that. I totally understand that, but I just, it's a bigger problem than we've been recognizing. I'm just gonna finish and then I'm gonna have to leave. But rather than it being a blaming game on that darn school district is so expensive, let's think about some other things too. Well, maybe the problem is, and this was going around the emails too, that, we just don't have a lot of sources of revenue or income in our town. And that's, choices that our town citizens have made. And, it's not that our schools are so expensive, it's that we don't have a lot of ways to make money in our town. So I just want to reiterate that and say that out loud, because I think that sometimes it's easy to just say, $50 million, that's way too much money, how can they spend that kind of money? When we're not out of line, and we don't have a huge budget compared to our surrounding districts, we're below the state average. Is that what we want? I mean, I don't know. That's just...
though it's small, over the last 7 years, our assessment is actually a smaller portion of your overall town budget.
Yeah. I'd like to chime in unless you're really going to leave.
I think we're going to have to
I'd
cut
like
this.
to follow up on that unless you're really going to leave. But otherwise, I'd like to discuss having them back to follow up on that very
Well,
provocative
this is what
discussion.
I was going to suggest. We'll see if we can find some other time. Two things. Thank you for coming, and I don't want to keep you much longer because because I've made this commitment. But I think that what you're saying is warranted. We all have concerns about. You have one piece, you have one revenue source, revenue coming in from one source, and this has to be spent. Love to have a copy of what you've put together as far as where we stand, and if you can send that out.
Just the comparables, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, as we discussed, and we don't have time to do, and so hopefully we can help you come back, is the ranking question, because I think things come, it's all like a catch-22 thing. So, if we spend more money, does that bring people in? Does that then maybe make businesses interested in coming? It's very complex. It's not just as easy as saying we don't have the business, so therefore,
Right.
So
it is very complicated. But I'd be happy to talk about the rankings. I feel very strongly about them and have lots of opinions about them.
okay.
But even to your point on Saturday, when I brought up the rankings, right? We see what's, out on popular, but you brought up a great point. Well, some of those categories might be what we feel valuable, but there's others that are not.
Absolutely.
So,
We're going to cut this now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, I think we got to continue
Sure.
on. I just want to offer
continue.
Connie, is there anything that you'd like to?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm good.
And Stasha?
All set.
All set, okay.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Okay, and I know you guys have to leave. Can we be back in touch with you and see if there's another time that you can come back in? It may be just the two, and, you know, George, you can come if you're having a good time. And,
Always having a good time.
good. Because I think there are still other questions, and I appreciate it. I'm glad you came in. I know we want you to really negotiate good contracts. Because that $300,000 sitting out there. So,
All right, well, thank you.
thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So we'll have an opportunity, I think, after to go, because we want to discuss some of this further. But what I'd like to do is try and not fall too far behind, and with Mark Case here. Hi, Mark.
Hi there, how are you?
Mark's coming in to talk about, he's the tree warden, and talk about tree warden kinds of expenses. Okay, so welcome. I think that's a funny title, tree warden.
Yep.
And so maybe you can just explain in 1 minute, I'm gonna give you 1 minute, to just what it is that you do under this guise.
Every town's required by Mass General Law to have someone that's in care and control of all the trees that fall within the town easements. There's a gray area too if they fall within parks, because some towns have park commission or whatever, but the tree warden oversees the care and control of the trees that fall within the town takings.
Okay, good, thank you. And so what we have here is we have your budget, which in 2015 is level funded with 2014. The total budget is $47,345, of which $5,645 is in wages and salaries, and then there's these other two components. So, would you like to go through the line items? Well, first, let me just ask you one other question. It is level funded. Is there anything really different that you see happening in 2015 over 2014?
Well, there was a little bit difference. I'm going to go back to actually 2013.
Why don't I let you go and take it away?
Okay, so you can see that, first of all, we should probably maybe even at some point do a little housekeeping. Line at the 5137, and they call it wages. That is actually what we use to pay the police details.
We've got that in one other, I think one of Harold's lines too.
Yeah.
I don't know, is there something, can we call that something else? Well, there was going to be a
Our
there.
town employees,
Yeah.
our town employees that we're paying the police officers.
Any other way we can just, can we do wages, police, I mean, how can we?
We typically only use that just for the details.
Okay, so we can
Yeah.
define it as wages, police detail, would that work?
Yeah, that's fine. And then the 5700 is miscellaneous.
Yeah.
We only use that for disposal of the wood products.
Can that change be made too?
Should I disposal?
Disposal, what disposal of,
Well, what we do is we take all the large waste wood and we have to pay to get rid of it in a lot of cases because it's rotted, decayed, not usable, or it's very large.
so if you were to pick one line, the name you like for that?
Disposal.
Disposal, okay.
So let's take a look at 2013.
Okay.
National Grid came in and did a lot of improvements throughout the town. So we were able to kind of like jump on their shirt tails and work right behind them. So we didn't have to pay a lot for our police details. However, you can notice that our disposal was up a little bit because we were disposing of a little bit more than we would typically would do. We also found homes for some of the wood along the way. First of all, the trees in front of the public, trees that are on public property in front of a particular home or property, that landowner has first right of refusal to the wood. If they don't want the wood, then we dispose of it.
Just as an interest for, there are people in town that maybe have, that need wood and
Yeah, but
can't
see,
afford to
they-
buy it. Is there a way that they can go ahead and?
Well, if they have, one of the problems we've had in the past is by leaving wood behind, and National Grid, when they come through, they will leave some of the larger branches for pruning. We can't, when we have the tree crew in there doing a removal, we don't want to leave wood behind, because if it doesn't get picked up or it's large, then we have to go back and pay to go back and pick it up again. And so also keeping it out of the town, some places the easement's very narrow, we want to keep the wood back off the road, then you're putting it on private property. So we've had issues in the past, so typically if we do a removal, if the homeowner doesn't want the wood goes in the disposal yard.
Okay.
We have found some homes for in town, some people will request, say, any chance we can get some wood. What the problem is, you gotta take the good with the bad. And we're talking about some stuff that's 4 or 5 feet in diameter, plus the brush. So very few people want to deal with all of it. When we worked behind National Grid, we had just, in some cases, just wood, and we were able to distribute that as well. So that saved us quite a bit of money.
Okay. So that's what you're seeing in 2013?
13 is not necessarily a good representation. I think if you look at the actuals for 2011 and 2012, that's 2012, the reason the wages were up so high and the disposal was up so high is because we had all that storm cleanup that we were dealing with.
So we got the benefit of National Grid following after the
Yes.
storm, so this
Yes.
was during the storm.
Yeah.
Was that the ice storm?
I believe it was.
Yeah. Okay, and so
And Harold...
fortunately, we haven't had anything in, so far in 2014, and, go ahead, I'm sorry.
That ice storm, it also came out of some of Harold's budget money and stuff like that. It wasn't just out of the tree warden, but...
Okay. So, what we see so far this year, if we're looking at 2014, just to see if the budget looks right, is very little, well, there's been no disposal.
Right.
And is that unusual when you've had, you've spent about...
Because some of that, we've been able to find homes for that wood, and also, the other thing is we do some routine maintenance and trouble calls. We kind of hang on to that little budget that we have, and towards the end of this year, then we schedule the work and try to get the guys in and get, spend all we can. And last year, there was some scheduling conflicts, so we didn't necessarily get all of our budget spent.
Did a pretty good job. Oh, you spent 42 out of 47, yeah. The most of that downfall is in wages, and you couldn't have used it anyway, so.
Yep.
And going forward, you're content with the amount of money?
Obviously, more would be better, but I think we can do a pretty good job with what we have in the budget.
Yeah. Okay, any questions from our group
I
here?
think things look pretty good around town.
Yeah, and if we keep our fingers crossed, we don't have another one of those heavy...
Well, we'll see what happens tomorrow. Heavy wet snow.
Heavy wet snow, how much fun. Just don't want to lose any electricity.
And the big one's coming Sunday night.
Is that bigger than...
They said it's bigger than the one we're getting tomorrow.
What's interesting is I watched just as a little aside, I watched last year's exact same meeting. You were there, and Harold's there, we didn't have a school committee. It was exactly the same storm pattern, because there was conversation. Do you remember? You were saying the big storm is coming. They're talking about 3 feet on Sunday, right? I don't remember what it ended up being. I have no idea.
February always fights back.
It does. But then we had all that snow in March too. So, yeah. Well, we appreciate what you do. And just want to also say just one other thing. With the tree trimming, that's all put out to bid. It's not your expense. It's not you that's doing the work. You're managing.
I'm managing.
Okay, great.
We do on occasion, like if the tree comes down in the middle of the night, I might go out with a log truck or whatever. We had an agreement that already in writing and stuff. So I don't do any of the tree trimming that goes out to bid. But if there's a tree that comes down in the middle of the night, I might go out there.
How long have you been doing this?
20-something years.
Okay.
Starting to get good.
Yeah. Good.
Learning from our mistakes.
Okay, well, I appreciate you coming in. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you.
We lost Harold. Oh. There he is. Is it helpful to send that list of things that were... Yes, thank you.
Easy.
Well, the good news, Harold, is you're doing really well in your snow and ice budget. Congratulations.
Oh, yeah. We are not going to start out with that.
I have a message from a bunch of parents that say you can have anything you want if you guarantee school will be open to go.
That's true.
Clemson's already closed.
I tell you what, I'll take you up on that. I don't have the roads done. You just give me 200,000.
No.
I'll make it good. You said anything I want.
Yeah, it did sound like that. He didn't mean it. And he's... That's right.
I mean, of the stuff I have in my pocket, so.
But on that subject, I need another 100,000.
why did I think it was 50?
Well, she put in 50, but for what I see coming right now, you better make it 100.
Okey-doke. So, do we want to talk about that now? Or do we want to, first, let's go through the budgets.
The first 100's already gone, right?
That's good, all but
Yeah.
13,000.
You're gonna, when we do talk about it, can we just put that off?
Yeah, we can.
And just deal with the budget, because when we do talk about it, we've gotta, you're gonna give us where we are to date, because we're about, okay. So that would be helpful, that would be very helpful. Okay, so, you're responsible for a lot of different areas, and I think probably the best way, first of all, let me just ask as an overview, what you're seeing in your 2015 budgets that might be different than 2014, if there's anything that just...
We'll start by department though.
No, I'm asking for an overview first.
Overview, do I see anything different? Yes, we've got more maintenance going in, for especially under the highway department on the equipment you have. And we have, well, a fair amount as far as the buildings too.
Okay. So the maintenance is like the thing that kind of, when you ask that question, is what sort of jumps out? That's
Yeah,
something.
it's maintenance, some of it's been deferred maintenance for so long that it needs to be done. As we go through this budget, I'm sure you'll ask the questions and
Yep.
I'll tell you how much more we've spent.
Okay, sounds good, sounds good. Okay, so we'll start, 190, town buildings is the first budget that I have for, requested in, fiscal 2015 is $130,141, which is a decrease of $19,000, I don't know what that number is, $19,000 from, fiscal year 2014, and I believe that number is the generators, the reduction that were included last year.
Well, the generators were the year before, but it was for the
Building.
building, the Houghton building and the boilers.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
The boilers for the, was it the whole, no, the boilers for the
Fire station.
Fire station,
Okay, that was last
the
year.
furnaces,
furnaces,
whatever.
right, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's the reduction. It's the 190,5,700 is kind of the spot where I think we mutually agreed last year. We put those kind of bigger maintenance items.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah, 19,000 was in 2013, so that was boilers and,
Didn't we also put old fire station?
Old fire station,
Was
yeah.
in there too.
Yes.
Old fire station, true up, fix up.
The $7,000 or $8,000.
it was in the 20...
Mine was
20
half and half, it was like 10 and 8 or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah,
I missed that one.
Yeah, and so this year, the 9,000 is for that one remaining fire station furnace. And I apologize, it's in two different places. It's in the line item, it's also on our list of articles, because I wasn't sure where you wanted to put it, so that's why it's like a double.
Okay, and that also occurred under trash, or...
Yes.
Yes, with the 22,000. So the 9,000 is in both places. Okay, so that's probably something that we should just decide. So that, it also happened with, in...
Police cruiser and...
No, we had police cruiser, but just with...
What else was there? Because there's 28,000.
No, that's this year.
I
2014
know.
is 28,000.
28,000.
So
Okay.
it's going down to 9.
Okay.
So we did, there's 2 of them that we needed to do? I thought when we
We
did...
did 2, we got 1 more to go. There were
There's three
three
total?
forced hot air units in that building.
Really?
There's 2 that are hanging units and 1 that's in the, off to the side.
This is in the old...
Vertical.
Why didn't we do 3 at once? Because we thought the one was
No,
still good?
Wait.
or did
no,
we-
just budgetary reasons.
Oh, okay.
So this is for the old fire station furnace?
No.
It's,
Well,
yes,
Not the historical one.
not the
It's for-
historical.
Oh, for the one on the
Right, the
right-hand
one that's
side, what
being
you're
used.
facing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so it's
As
not
you drive in
this...
the driveway, the one you're facing.
Okay, got it. So that's old and not historical.
That's correct.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's 9,000. It is appearing both places. I don't know, at this
I'd
point,
be comfortable leaving that in the miscellaneous line. in
that's where it was
department.
last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, I'd rather...
Yeah, no, that's
take
what I'm
it off
saying.
the
So
article.
take-
Well, what we did last year was they didn't put it in their operating budget. We considered it as a capital request. We approved it and decided to put it into their budget as opposed to having an article for it. And I think we should do the
Do the same thing there.
Yeah.
And it's already appearing in your budget, so we'll leave
Yeah,
it
so,
there.
all right, so we'll
Okay,
cross
so we'll
it
take
off.
that. And,
It's gone completely. I mean, there's no, It's,
It was put in 1963.
Okay.
It's,
That's
it
not,
doesn't know us anything.
It's young compared to our
I was born
trucks.
before that, it's not old.
that would probably put it in.
Okay, so we dealt with the last item first, and so that $28,000,
Good thing
that's
for
in.
you, he's professional, you know?
He said
That's the
waiver.
best one.
He's on the other side of the table.
He just won't plow my road tonight.
He's taking all the snow and putting it at the end of your driveway.
So, okay, so we've dealt with the 5,700 miscellaneous category, and the only thing in there is this one piece,
Yes.
the fire station furnace, okay, and that compares to what we've done in prior years. Let's go up to the top line, 5240 maintenance, 96,591, it's a little bit more than last year. And what I asked was that if you can bring down, did you bring a breakdown of what's included in that
It's
account?
actually the same as last year.
Oh.
But, yes. Let's see. That includes, let's see, all of our maintenance contracts, the controls at the public safety building and the library. We have different contracts for the heating controls, the maintenance for the generators at the various buildings, the alarm systems at all of the buildings, the elevator maintenance contract, our cleaning contract at the library, all the septic pumping, all of the supplies that we buy for cleaning supplies and toilet paper, things like that. All of the fire extinguishers, vacuum cleaner replacements, things like light bulbs.
Contractors do the work, I see the electrical contractors in there, plumbing and so on.
Yeah.
So this is a pretty stable line item, you don't really
Right.
see, and when I look back at all the years, it's, the actuals have been running in that 96,000. There was one larger year in 2012 of 102,000, and then in 2011 was 57, but that's before we had everything on board, all those new contracts. So, and I look at expenditures through the 6 months, it's pretty much, you spent about 50%.
Yeah.
So there's no surprises there, and
Not yet,
not.
anybody have any questions on that line? Okay. Repairs. You're requesting 11,800, same as last year.
Yeah.
The expenditures, this can be all over the place, right? So,
Yeah.
can you want to talk a little bit about that? That's also,
They're almost interchangeable, the two. I mean, it's repairs to different things. Some of the lighting repairs that we've had to do, keys and different door locks, things like that, is pretty much all we've spent this year on it so far, but that one's more for the unknown type things that will break or, something like that.
so last year's actual, 2013 actual was 11,282. Is that the basis of your budget?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in 2012, it was 11,268, so that's, then that looked out of, sort of not representative back in 2011, so that looks like a good number. I know you haven't spent very much at this
No, not
point,
at this point.
but hard to change it because your history shows that you do spend that money.
Right.
Everybody comfortable with that? Okay, grounds maintenance. This I understand is mowing and,
No, your ground maintenance is, yes, it's the mowing of your transfer station, and your irrigation system at the Fordish Mill and Memorial Field, and if we have anything left over, it would be fertilization, but usually it's been eaten up, because between the transfer station that we've got to mow, and then your irrigation system, and maintaining the wells that have to be maintained for it. It's pretty
Do
well done.
I know the soccer programs took over most of the,
They did a lot for us.
They were-
In
but they have
baseball,
not-
in baseball,
baseball too, but they haven't do we not let them touch the irrigation, or is it just
We
they
have-
haven't had enough funds to cover that?
No, we have, usually had that in our budget, and we covered irrigation.
Okay.
And it's just an agreement. We covered this, and then you take care of the rest. They've been excellent to work with.
So what do you think? I mean, if they weren't doing that kind of work, what do you think you're looking at?
How much could we cut?
No, how much do they
would it cost you
contribute?
to-
How much are they contributing?
Oh,
Yeah,
a
At
lot.
least another 10,000.
least.
Oh, at least 10, if not more, just on Forbush, never mind
Yeah, for line
Memorial.
painting and,
Mowing and all.
And
Oh, okay.
also, it should be noted too that they were the ones that paid for the installation of the systems initially.
Yeah,
So
oh,
we
no.
just,
They will exceed the 10,000 we're spreading between things, they exceed that just in one field.
Well, they're good to have around.
Oh, yeah,
Been
work
helpful.
very well.
Encourage that. Trash hauling,
that's just the library.
well, that's right, that's that one contract.
Mhm.
And there was some discussion whether there would be a better way to do that, but no,
no.
okay.
It's very, very
We talked about
inexpensive.
taking the stuff to our dump.
Yeah,
right? But then
right,
that was
yeah.
like a truck
And
and
then we looked
somebody.
at,
This is-
and then we looked at rolling the police station. and-
Right.
That's right, and so when we decided that this
That's a
is, that's a bigger mess. Propane is for the
Generators.
generators,
Yeah.
and at this point, we haven't spent anything good.
No.
At the beginning,
Not yet.
not yet.
Do we need to, it runs a test? At
They
some point, we'll need to do
test
field
every
trip?
week. They test
So
every
this
week.
was.
They automatically run the test themselves, and then Jim goes down and starts them to
Okay.
make sure that they start up.
So at some point in time, we'll need a full tank.
They'll need a full tank, and if we have an emergency, that's when we're gonna heat it.
So was this, the original propane purchased along with the purchase of the generators? Is that
Yes.
what you got?
That's
Okay.
right, yeah.
Okay, so that's why it doesn't show up before.
That's
And
right.
so the estimation is that is $1,800 buys, what,
2 tanks?
2 tanks?
Yeah,
Is there a minimum amount we have to pay each year?
yeah.
Okay, so we just haven't gotten that bill yet.
No.
Is it
we haven't
because it
got-
goes bad or something and you have to
No,
get?
No,
they
they'll always
just-
fill it to the brim when they come out, and it has to be worth their while to be on a contract, so
Oh.
even if you don't use it, I think you spend
You
a certain
spend.
amount of money.
You've got to spend a minimum amount each year, either actually buying propane or just giving them money, because it's like an insurance policy.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Even though we use propane like at the public safety building that?
No, it's a
doesn't-
separate site.
I know it's a separate site, but there's no,
No.
they won't,
Economies of
say-
scale.
not even economies of scale, because they have another contract with us, yeah.
I mean,
No, it doesn't
They got
work
to
that
bring
way.
the truck over here anyway, so
Mm.
it's another stop as far as they're concerned.
Okay, we went through miscellaneous,
Okay,
so,
We're all set.
sure.
So last year, the Houghton, the historical fire building, fire station repairs went as planned? Yes, no?
Yes and no.
Is there still, because I know there's an, and we don't have to get into this now, I know there's an
No.
article to fix
Yes,
it. We have to table that and figure out what the use of it is for, but in your opinion, is it still leaking? Is it,
Well,
you
that's where I
know,
get confused, there's old fire station furnace, and that's for the new old.
that's for the new
But the
old.
old fire station paint and repair is for the old old?
it's for the old?
Yes.
Maybe we come up with a different, up with different kinds.
Historical.
Yes, historical, okay.
But Harold, so one of the things we wanted to give you $8,000 last year was because even though we didn't know what the use of the building was, we didn't want it to fall into further
Correct.
state of disrepair.
Mhm.
Does it run the risk, given what you did to it, if we decide to do nothing with it, is it ship shape in your opinion?
No,
It's not weather tight.
no.
So the $8,000 didn't do what we
No,
intended
it took care of that one spot.
Yeah.
We took the stairs down, we ended up opening the side of the building up and found we had a lot more decay there than we had ever anticipated. So we had to sister up those 2x4s there on that side, and we took care of that. In doing so, we found other spots.
Is that in-house work? Are you doing it all in-house or no? You have to contract it out.
In-house contract.
So would you, not tonight, but could it be possible to get an idea as to, last year you went back and said $8,000 to fix the roof and the stairs. Could you for us, or for at least to do the same kind of analysis as to how much you'd need if we didn't paint and repair it in an article, how much you'd need to get it.
Weather tight.
So that appears in this,
Now,
Here.
If we gave it to them, we'd put it back up there.
how do you classify, or how are you weather tight?
Well, last year we gave you $8,000 because it was leaking and we
That's
just,
right.
we wanted to just stop the damage.
let's say that you're gonna put the new ambulance in there.
Yeah.
What would you need to do?
The old-
Well,
That's a big
it depends what
Old
the-
ambulance, I'm sorry.
Okay, it depends what the ambulance needs. Now, I know I'm
It's gotta be-
dodging your questions. If the ambulance could sit in there and have a heater in the ambulance itself and be plugged in,
Yes.
That's what we understand.
not too much.
Well, it needs an external heater too, but not.
And now, an
Not
extra-
a block thingy.
No,
not
yeah.
even-
No, okay, you're gonna have an external heater to heat the building.
Yes.
All right, that's a completely
All right, so
different.
forget that though, but to keep it cold,
Well, if you
And
can
not-
keep it cold and keep a heater in the ambulance itself, so what's in the box would not freeze, and then the engine is plugged in with a block heater, so it's all ready to go. The electricity is there, the actual plugs to do it, I'd have to look at. But, okay, let's get back to...
but it's not in danger of falling down.
Okay, no,
to stop-
let's go back. When you said make this weathertight,
Well, he said,
okay, the paint is peeling. Okay, the longer you let the paint peel, the more chance clapboards are gonna rot. We have some other rot to take care of, and then the building should be painted, all right? Do you wanna paint it, do you not wanna paint it? At what point do you wanna call
In the
out?
current year, is there water infiltration?
I don't see it.
Okay. So
I see the possibility of it. I
It's
believe
currently
happening.
weather tight, and it's possible, to the best of your knowledge, it's currently weather tight. But unless we do some repairs, it will lose that the next couple of years.
I would say, it's tongue-in-cheek weather-tight, because I look and I see we got some storm windows broken and so on, so the water's going down and going down.
Okay.
We know we got problems there, and we got some other rot in the building that we discovered as we were working on it. Now,
So let me ask this just a little differently. So
Okay.
if you spend the 28,000 or whatever you're
Yeah.
asking for here, what does that do to what does that make the building?
I'm hoping that we would be able to take care of the rot on the building, and would be able to paint that building.
And then,
And what is it, and what does that do for the, what do you
That
envision
way
the
it would
building to
prolong its
be?
life.
when would you have to spend money on it again?
It depends what you want for the building.
Well, I think that's why we don't have an answer to the question. We don't have an answer
It's
to
just
the
gotta
question.
stand there,
That's
just
the
like it's doing now. It's just gotta stand there.
At that point there, I'd say, if the 28 will do this, and I guess I better check to make sure it does, again, that would probably buy you another 10 or 15 years in that building.
Okay.
but you need to paint it in 5, 6 years.
Put the cement board on.
Oh,
We haven't bought yet.
This is other product that I would try on that.
okay.
Oh.
Okay.
So then what I'm hearing, and not to put words in your mouth, is what we intended to do last year, we have done,
Yes, we have.
okay? And that we've bettered the structural integrity of the building, and now it really is up to the town to figure out
What do we wanna do
wanna
with it?
with it.
I think that's
Right.
the question. And who's, Don, I'm gonna put you on. So who's
owns that
best to
property?
answer that question?
The Board of Selectmen.
Okay, so I think that may be,
And I had asked the Board of Selectmen last
But one of
year,
the key questions is going to be, are we going to keep the current ambulance to have as a backup? Because if we are,
still, we
but
haven't, yeah.
that's a proposed use. But one of the things, if you remember, I went to the Selectmen last year, I said we should create a historical fire station space needs committee so that we can figure out what to do with the building. That never happened. The only proposal on the table right now is Margie thinks that the old ambulance can have a house there. That's the only alternative.
And we don't even know if we're gonna keep that,
Well,
we're gonna do that.
The question back to the selectmen then is, once the ambulance question is resolved, is that the answer for that building? In other words, if we don't put the ambulance in there, what happens then? And if they say we'll have to investigate that, let's just get started.
right, but I think we need to put the ambulance question to bed first.
Well, that's the only one that's on the table, but is that the leading contender? 'Cause
If
it's
there's
the
no
only one on the
ambulance,
table?
does that mean?
I don't think we need to answer the ambulance question first, because if the question for the ambulance is no, then you've still got to figure out what to do with it.
There is no clear, currently, there is no clear best hire use than having the second ambulance. Now, if we choose to not do that, then there's probably an array of things that we can look at, but I disagree. I think we need to put the ambulance question to bed, yes or no, and then we move on from there.
And I think that's waiting to, I know that, I guess it was last night, capital planning met with them, and they'll be in with us in a couple of weeks, and we'll be able to see how they're prioritizing everything, and what the recommendation is. Was it $25,000 to $30,000 difference in?
But that puts the ambulance question at a complete disadvantage, in my opinion, right? Because we've asked Margie to quantify how much it would cost to keep the old ambulance.
Mhm.
So far, we have 25 grand that we wouldn't have salvage value for. And second is, we'd have to get a house for it and pay 28 grand to make the house. So you're
Just
talking
to get
50
it.
grand to keep an old ambulance, right? Already, the scales, in my opinion, are
Tipped again.
tipped away.
But those are questions we have to answer. I mean, that's not trying to rig the question on whether or not we keep the ambulance. That's what we have to spend
No, I understand.
if we want the second
Yeah,
ambulance.
yeah.
So it's a cost of doing business, and we haven't answered that question yet.
Can we get some guidance from the selectmen in the next couple of cycles here?
Well, they're not meeting
So I'm going to meet again on
tomorrow.
February 20th, I can put it on the agenda.
I think there's a lot of questions that hinge on that.
Now, do they have any meeting set up to discuss capital planning before then, or?
They've already met with Margie on the ambulance.
Right, I know that, but I don't know, was there, I think I was at that meeting, was there discussion on keeping, any discussion on keeping the second ambulance, or?
There was no discussion.
Yeah.
Then no,
I'm
it's an
sorry,
issue that has
I
to be
think,
answered.
I think the second ambulance question should wait until after town meeting.
How can that wait till after town meeting? It affects what you're gonna,
No, it doesn't affect what you're going to spend at all,
yes, it does.
not
Well,
in
it's
terms
gonna-
of the ambulance.
The ambulance costs X, but if you're gonna
You're not-
trade it in,
You're not going to get that money in the same fiscal year.
right, but I think it makes, to me, it makes a difference on,
But if it waits till town meeting, Bob, then the historical fire station repairs shouldn't be on the warrant.
I agree.
Right.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm a little confused with this one. It doesn't take much, I understand that. But why is the 28,000 tied, the repair of the building tied to the ambulance?
Because right now, to Don's point, the only proposed use of the old building that it would be worthy to spend any money to shore up would be to house the old ambulance.
So therefore, if the ambulance doesn't go in there, the building can go into disarray.
Well, then to
That's
Don's
my,
point, then the
that's
next
my
decision-
point of view.
Then the next.
No,
the
or
next
the
decision
second-
is there anything else
Is there
to
anything
use?
else to
Is there
use?
anything else? And then we can't make that decision.
But the question on the table was, what do we want out of the building?
Right.
And until we decide whether or not we're keeping the second ambulance, that may or may not be the answer. If the answer is we want the second ambulance in the building, that's the answer to the question. If that's not, then we still have to define what it is we want out of the building.
Right.
Yeah,
And other than keeping it upright for another 10 or 15 years, we don't know what the potential cost is for that.
right, and that's,
But this has been helpful, because if we do shelve it, then we know it's not gonna fall down, and it's not currently leaking. And so that's important for me to know.
okay,
Can we
good.
move on?
We can. Next, traffic lights, is that what you all have? Yeah. Okay, good. So the budget here is, these are traffic lights, as I understand, is it just the 110, 117 traffic light? Or also the blinking one at Waterquatic?
The blinking.
The two?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And the budget this year is $2,700, which is level funded with last year and the year before, and expenditures have exceeded that. My one question, is that if, it was my understanding that if maybe either way, that tied into the casino in Leominster, that intersection was being looked at, and that traffic light, which is like ancient, is part of that consideration. I might be wrong on that?
Well, there's a couple of different questions there, or answers. First of all, the traffic light is ancient. When DOT came out to look at it, their engineer said it was the oldest one he's ever seen. That being said, as far as the slot parlor goes, the money that we'll be receiving from Cordish, if they get the slot parlor award, is for the re-engineering, to do the study of the re-engineering of the intersection. It has nothing to do with the hardware there.
Okay.
Then there'd be additional work to be done after that. Also, if, going back to DOT, if DOT did take over control 117, which I'm hopeful they will, then that's entirely on their dime.
And that would be something, that would be like a number one kind of,
It would.
because it's so old. That's maybe what I was thinking.
They
about.
agree, it's a very poorly designed intersection that's past due for being redone.
And the blinking light in center of town will be theirs too?
Yes.
Yeah, it should, yeah, absolutely.
So is this, at this point, the electric, which maybe open some electric discussion, Tom, I don't know, electric and the repairs that, the budget that you have, enough to keep it going until we know what's going to be happening with the 117 takeover?
Providing we don't have any breakdowns, it is.
But you fixed it recent, I mean,
Yes, yeah, we
you
had-
fixed it
Yeah.
recently, right?
Yeah, we brought it
Yep.
up to the early 90s.
Because the budget, I mean, the expenditure in 2013 was, on a $1,200 budget was like 5,000, and in 2012 it was 6,000. Yeah, you would have had to, because,
Yes.
that's right, yeah. So I don't know if you're, there's no way to tell,
Well, this is only a one-year budget. I mean, there's no way we're going to decide in the next year what to do with 117.
It won't get resolved, I don't believe it.
I'm not saying that it would be, I'm just asking,
It's enough to run.
Providing
if
we
it's not,
don't,
I mean, provided that there isn't, I know that you
providing
have
there
wiring
isn't
issues.
something, wiring issue or
The
whatever.
things that could change that are beyond fiscal 15.
I'm not even suggesting it, I'm just asking if, given that what the repairs have been done in the past couple of years, if it's still reasonable to keep this budget, that's all.
It should be.
Okay. Okay, so that's good. Anybody have any other questions on 293 traffic lights? Moving on. Okay, so then we are at 421 Highway. This is where you're talking about maintenance issues, I gather. Oh, that's the next one, I'm sorry. So, this is a budget that includes your employees. And the total amount is, for 2015, request is $764,589, which is about $11,000 higher than in 2014. And if you just want to walk through that, salary,
Well, 5,900, that's salary. And so that's probably steps.
For wages, yeah, those are steps.
oh no, there's steps aren't in here yet.
Well, steps are.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're at wages.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm
no,
sorry.
you said 11,000 in total, and I just said 5,900, and that 11,000 is wages.
Oh, I see what you're saying, I'm sorry.
Yeah, which
Oh,
is
the total
steps.
here, yeah, it's your steps, okay.
I'm
Right,
just trying to show you
okay.
a hint.
Okay. So, salary consists of,
Just,
The
Salary's mine.
yeah.
It's Harold, that's how he pays for those hats.
Yeah.
oh, it's the same one as last year. I don't think so.
No, it's new. It's new every year.
Very nice. Okay, and wages, you have the same
And the
number.
employees, yeah.
Same number of employees as in
Yeah.
previous years.
Yes,
Yeah.
So that's the step. And overtime,
that's
15.
just the overtime that comes up for highway, like trees down or, barricades in the middle of the night or stuff like that. Burials, longevity is just, a set number.
okay, so,
Purchase of service,
Well, can we go back to wages?
yeah.
Yep.
Because we had an excess of about 35,000 in wages
Mhm.
in 13, and 24 in 12. And you think you need to keep it at 506?
that's good.
And that's the,
5137.
yeah, we did the spreadsheet with everyone's hours, and that's what it came up to. The only thing is, we do have the EMT program in the summer, and they don't always, I don't think it comes up to 35,000, but they don't always work 40-hour weeks. We have 6 slots for them.
You think that's what's causing the variance, is the
I
EMT?
think so, and then didn't we have, Sam, but that wouldn't have affected.
Yes, it would have. No, that would
Oh,
have been.
Wayne, was it Wayne?
Yes, Wayne Perkins.
Yeah,
The past 2 years, we've had turnover where we've had a long-term employee leave and we've had someone come in at step one.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so in fiscal 13, you were budgeted for 35,000 more than you spent. Fiscal 12 was 24,000. And both of those cases are due to employees terminating during the year and getting replaced by younger?
Yes.
Yep.
And not replaced right away. So we
Okay.
had, you
So,
know,
but then the point is, have you established a new run rate here, a new baseline that would allow the 508 to be reduced? Are you fully staffed today?
Today, we're fully staffed.
we are.
And those couple people are at lower entry or more entry level than the seasoned people that they
But I have the
replaced?
feeling that you're calculating these out, are you?
I am.
Yeah, she's calculating that. I don't think she's just saying, same as last year.
But they've calculated them out in the past too, and there's still a big jump.
Yeah, well, but there again, we lost people. As I said, when Wayne left, and when there was a big delay, it was a long delay
It's like
between
2
replacing.
months or something.
2 months we delayed.
Okay.
And then when you come up with the 6 EMTs, and if they start taking vacations during their time, it's just unforeseen.
That would be a number, if that's consistently happening, that might be a way of looking at, to see if there's any reduction or anything. Because the only thing I'm bringing up is that what Lorraine is saying, that she's actually goes out and calculates what the costs are, so that, Shelley, I'm sorry, Shelley, goes out and.
Well, I don't know, if it's a 40-hour week and you know you have 20 people and you know what their salaries are and it adds up to
Yeah, I mean,
506,226, then
Yeah.
I don't think we can say anything about it.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I mean, probably the only place would be in the EMT.
EMTs, that's the only one.
The actual last year was 466. The actual the year before that was 469. The actual before that was 477. And the actual before that was 456.
Yes.
This is a very narrow band of wages.
Yeah, historically, been under the 5.
Yeah,
Yeah,
500,000.
all of which have been historically under by, at least $11,000, if not more.
Maybe what you can do, Shelley, is take a look at I can't see how you can do it. You can't assume that people are gonna leave or,
Right.
but maybe the EMT piece is something you can take a look at and see if that
Right.
is consistently under that 30, whatever the 35,000.
It's a hard thing to estimate, because when you bring them in, is how many of them are going on 2 or 3 week vacations, how many are doing this, and how
Some
many
of
are
them,
doing
you know,
that.
might work half a week, 1 week or something. I mean, the budget figure for that program is roughly 52.5. So, I
Can
don't,
we isolate what the EMT has been against that 52.5?
I can.
And if it's the divergence that Bob's seen in the total, then we know it's that. And then I would recommend that if that has been the delta over the course of the past number of years, then it's probably time to cut it.
okay.
So you can just get back to us with an email on that, and then we'll see if we need to bring it back in.
Sure.
And of course, we run the risk of them accepting the same amount of people and nobody taking vacation.
Right.
Right, and then they'll come and see us.
Yeah.
Any other questions on the above the line items, the wages and overtime salaries? Okay, like purchase of services,
Okay.
or Harold, whoever wants to address it.
Purchase, what was the purchases of services?
35, yeah, I have it as newspaper ads, that's what it was last year.
Newspaper ads, that's our internet service, all of our, let's see, our,
And licenses?
licenses
Comcast, Telegram.
and our random drug screening, license reimbursement, that type of thing.
Okay. And that's been running just fine, it's a good number, and, it's been about a little bit less than half. Okay, any questions on that? Heating. That was an interesting discussion. So heating, you have a budget of $3,500, which is the same as last year. It ran $3,000 in 2013, only $2,000 it seems to fluctuate quite a bit.
Depends on how cold it is and how much oil we get, our waste oil.
Okay,
And right now, that's running behind.
yeah.
So that's, I expect that to run over.
Right, there's no way to know at this point. Okay. Everybody okay with leaving it at 3,500? Okay, electric. 5,500, which is the same as last year's budget. 5553. Is this a good time to have just a discussion about electric?
Sure.
Okay, so, as you all may remember, when the library came in, there was what we saw, one discrepancy between budget and actual expenditures was in the electrical line item, and we reduced their budget by $6,000 because of that. Go ahead, I wasn't there for the meeting, so why don't you go ahead?
Bob, Zach did a kilowatt hour analysis as to what they've used and applied what they used against what he believed to be the contracted town rate for kilowatt hours, which he estimated as going down. And so that's what drove the $6,000 reduction that night. And since then,
We have more information that we haven't had a contract for a while. I'll let Don, if you can just address this.
Well, we have a contract, but
Oh, yeah, okay.
we have a contract. The contract that we've been on, which has been a 2-year contract, expires the end of October. And we had an outstanding rate. When we went out to look at our options, it was clear that we were going to be paying significantly more for the winter. And then after the winter, it would be coming down, the rate would be coming down a fair amount. So what we have now is a variable rate, because locking it in would have been, crazy at such a high rate. The forecast that I was given is pretty much holding up. They're firming up the numbers now. The February futures are already down 30% from where we are now. The March futures are down 70% from where we are now. So and there'll be an opportunity to try to get some stabilization to the pricing after March. So I'm looking at April, trying to lock something in, or at least try to get some insurance against something so we have some predictability. So my recommendation is that we level fund all of the electricity lines. I don't see it being better than it was the past 2 years, but I think we can get fairly close to it. We're going through a pretty significant blip right now, because we're going through some very significant spikes, which are being seen everywhere, really. And it'll be back under control come spring. So I would say level fund all the electricity lines for FY15.
so let me just pick on your words for a second. If they're going to be better under control by spring is fiscal year 14, and so why would we level fund from 14 to 15 if we think come spring we're going to get?
I'm saying better than where we are. I'm not saying going to be better than the previous.
Be comparable to
year. Okay.
comparable, your hope would be to get to the kind of rates you had that were great or not?
No, I'm hoping to get close to the neighborhood of where we were in last year, but
So that
I can't guarantee that yet.
Mr. Zach,
Be over.
Lacking better information, I would say level funded.
Mr. Zach did some extensive analysis. I would,
But he did it based on a price that was unsubstantiated.
well, I'm still okay with that. I'd rather keep that the way it was, and then if they run short, they can come back to
No,
us.
but even Bob's contacted me and said he made a mistake. He wants to put it back. This wasn't from us.
Bob and I have spoken, and Bob has changed that position.
Because I'm noticing they're high right now.
Yes,
Fair.
that's true, my God.
Yeah,
There's two
and
vendors now too, which
Yeah.
makes double the payments.
what is, two vent,
Yeah, it wasn't.
We still pay National Grid and now Mint Energy.
All right.
Just 2 days.
We're paying for the electricity and we have
And
a separate
distribution.
vendor for the distribution.
Well, it used to be on the same bill, right?
But we're not double paying it.
no,
Right.
yeah. Yes. And that $6,000 that had been taken out of the library budget, Julie's reflected in this current worksheet that you all have, is back in. Okay, so that's just a side discussion, so we're leaving electric where it was, 5,500, and expenditures are low, but we're just entering that. Okay, so then repairs, is this part of your,
That's repairs of
Concerns?
trucks and equipment we own.
okay.
But not the snow and ice stuff.
No.
No.
Yeah, it is, yes. The same equipment's used on, the thing, so it's a combination of two.
Some of the equipment
That's
is
it.
used in both.
That's
Okay,
correct.
not all. Okay.
Yeah.
But I'd understood from the discussion before is that if it's just snow and ice use, it is shown, the repairs are shown in the snow and ice budget.
We are trying to move that way, so those trucks that are used only for that, you will see under snow and sand and ice. In other words, you could see in the middle of August, snow and ice bills coming for trucks that are being repaired.
Okay, right, okay.
But you had a concern on this item, Harold? You're running higher than...
I'm running much higher in repairs. The trucks are, they're running us quite a bit more money to stay and keep them on the road.
As of December, do you have a lot of expenses in January? Because as of December 30th, we're about 50% spent.
I have a lot of expenses coming up, and a lot has already been moved into snow and sand. And then, come spring, you've got all your equipment that does all your mowing and your mowing machines, and
Yeah.
that all have to be done.
Yeah, it's hard to tell now then what that is. And your expenses have been right around that 42,000, so that's a place that I'm sure we want to keep it. Everybody agree to that?
Yeah.
Telephone, that's just level funded, unless there's anything to discuss. Supplies have been, they're level funded 11,600. They have been less than that, 8,000 and 8,500. There was 1 year back again in 2011 that was 10,000. And supplies to date are about 50% spent.
Of the 11.6?
Of the 11.6. So these are office supplies, is that right?
No.
No, I'm sorry, these are office and shop.
Not shop, yes. And that would go, anything that's used in the shop.
So so I guess the question is, it's been running less than the 11,006. This year, it seems like it might be running at 11,600.
Yeah,
Can we just speak about the...
The supplies?
Yeah, whether there's, give us a reason to keep it 11.6, I guess.
Well, there again, much of the supplies is, we do some of the welding there, the steel that's bought, the oxygen acetylene, just whatever is needed, and I have to admit, sometimes with supplies, I put parts in there too. So it's what it's gonna need.
We have a separate line for parts and
Yeah, I
supplies.
know, and I
Yeah.
steal out of everything for it. It's what it needs to keep the equipment you own going.
If this is running 50%?
Yeah, they're running 50%. Yeah, it's hard to cut it, right? Even though. And then gasoline, I'm just gonna, gasoline and diesel, I know they're two different kinds of things, but
Yeah.
both are at 18,000, and I know there was an effort last year to bring them both to 18,000. In 2013, gasoline ran 20.
I expect gas to run more this year, because we've moved away from one of the 1 tons from the diesel to the gas. And remember, you're talking money, not gallons.
Yeah.
Diesel fuel has gone up exponentially. Gasoline may have dropped, but the trucks that we're running are, they do like gasoline.
So that's, I understand that. So you would expect that the diesel prices would go down, which they did in 2013, to only 8,000. However, right now you're running through the 6 months at about 50%, a little bit less than that. You spent 8 of the 18. Where do you see that going? Diesel prices are going up? You said?
Diesel is, yes.
So, but we have less usage for it. Is that 18,000?
You've only lost one truck that's gone to a gas job. Your larger trucks are all diesel. And even though we may be using less diesel, the cost goes up.
What is the committee's thought about the gasoline diesel mix, so to speak?
Gasoline last year for the past couple of years has been at a deficit.
Yeah.
We raised it to accommodate that a bit. And if it reaches last year's level, it's going to be a deficit again. Diesel may drop a little bit, but that'll cover the deficit for the gasoline.
Yep,
And he's at 50% of the diesel already.
right, it's used already 50%, so even though we don't have the vehicles anymore, we have the cost of it. Okay, how's everybody feel about that?
Yeah. The year-round trucks that you have, are they gas or diesel?
The year-round, there is 2 trucks that are the dump trucks, which are the larger, they're diesel. The Flowboy is a diesel, okay, it's a 6-cylinder. I have 2 1-tons right now, they're diesel, and the others are gas.
How many others are there?
There's 4, maybe there's 1 diesel and 3 gas.
So the overwhelming majority of your year-round fleet is diesel?
What eats the most? No, yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So my point was just, it's not just the snow throwing, it's just not the snow clearing equipment.
Yeah, yeah,
the
and it's
year-round
only
stuff.
one
Right.
vehicle that's gone down.
And that would be under the snow budget.
But, can I just ask a question?
Sure.
So Harold, we have talked about capital, and we're not going to other than sort of this question, but you have a truck on the,
Yeah, it'll be gas.
is it gonna be gas?
Be gas.
Okay, all right.
A diesel will cost us $8,000 more, and every time you change the oil, it's another $100 beyond that. And the new gasoline engines are, they're well-built.
Okay.
They're pretty near bulletproof.
Yeah, my question was gonna be if that new
Yeah,
truck,
that's
if
what's-
you get
yeah.
it, was gonna
Yeah, that's,
flip the
No,
balance.
it's gonna be a gas.
okay. Can we move on to tires? Everything else looks, unless anybody wants to. So, tires are 4,000, and right now you're overspent, am I right, on tires?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've already spent close to $9,000. Can you, so the question is, what's happening this year? How does that reflect on next year's budget?
No, on this year's budget, we bought loader tires, right? We bought loader tires, those tires were $8,000. It was for them $2,000 a piece. Our tires, I would expect this year to spend another, I know right now I'll be spending another $2,000 to $3,000 on tires. For and that's for the trucks, for the 6-wheelers.
Are you talking next year or the remainder
No,
of this?
14.
I need them now.
But that should
Should help
reduce
you in 15 then.
what you need for next year for tires.
Theoretically.
Okay.
So we can keep it at 4,000 is what
I'd
you're
leave it
thinking?
right where it is because
Yeah.
a truck tire today is $600.
Yeah, no, I'm
You buy
just,
2 of them,
yeah.
it's $1,200, and pretty soon you're in through your budget's
no,
gone.
I'm comfortable with
No,
4,000.
it's,
It was more of an understanding of what was happening this year that you just,
yeah.
there's a large increase. Parts and supplies, they don't, at 9,000.
He's running historical.
Yeah, you're running historical and and we sort of mix the two, and mix that. Equipment, 6,000. What is,
It's a
what's
big
that?
jump.
Put in an extra 5.
Yep.
Yep, why?
That was put in for a new mower for the our grounds. Our mowing machines that we use, our Brave Leafs, are getting up in age. And I do know where there is, and if as long as it's there, when the money comes, I do know where there is a demo machine that I believe we'll be able to buy. The machine's worth about $13,000 and I can pick that up for somewhere around $5,000.
This is for like mowing of the transfer station?
No, it's mowing of your ball field.
Oh.
And your cemeteries, your ball field, and Forbush Mill. The ones we have now are, I think one of them's got something like 3,500 hours, and there's another one we have changed the engine on, and they're starting to show their years.
But do you mow Forbush Mill?
Yes.
Back to the soccer thing, you still?
We mow it twice a week. We mow Forbush Mill twice a week, Memorial gets mowed twice a week, and that, it doesn't matter if it's a drought or anything, those have to be mowed.
So when we were talking about the soccer thing, when you were saying they were saving us a ton of money, I thought I was equating it to mowing.
No.
It's on
Maintenance.
fertilizing and maintenance?
Maintenance,
Line
yes.
painting and all that stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
So that's $5,000. What is the committee's feeling on that?
If we've got an old mower and it needs to be replaced,
We have 3 mowers, to be
Okay.
honest with you, we have 3, and there are times in the year we only have 1 running, because the others are over being repaired.
are you going to still have 3 next year, or at the end of next year, you're going to have?
I would not sell, I would keep it for reserve. So if one goes down, I can use that one.
But if they're not, if the other ones aren't getting repaired, is there an offset in the repair budget by getting a new mower?
Whatever you offset on that repair budget will be taken care of by your trucks.
Okay.
Believe me.
Well, I guess, I'm not sure.
Well, I think
You know, what you're telling us is that you need 4 mowers because the 3 you have are so unreliable.
Yes.
And I'm wondering why you just don't retire one of them if you're gonna get a new mower.
If you, to sell it? Well, I'll get
Whatever-
practically nothing. When I retire it, it'll just sit in a storage box until it's
Okay.
needed again,
Yeah.
that's all. We put in there a good repair, and if we lose 2 mowers or 3 mowers during the thing, we could go back in and take that out.
Is this like a mower that I would have in my house, or is this?
No.
Or is it one of the people right on top of it?
That's right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Are they all the same type?
They're all Gravely's.
So there could be swap outs of parts and all that?
No, the different years, they change the style.
Of course they do.
Okay.
But to trade that mower,
No,
we're not gonna get nothing.
No, I wasn't suggesting a trade at all. I was just
Yeah.
figuring, you know, can we live with 3 until one of them actually dies?
Well, at that
Then you
point
sell
there,
that
and we've got a mow, what do we do?
Yeah, you just have to have them special.
Just a usage question.
Mm.
So what's your season, and do you mow literally twice, 2 times a week, all those fields every week in that season?
We are mowing 40 hours a week.
Oh, wow.
Thank you.
We mow 40 hours a week.
When's your mowing season start?
As soon as the
May?
snow's off the ground. No, we'll start in April.
Okay,
We'll start mowing, and we will mow right through into November.
okay.
No, we mow, all of that time is mowed. Those mowers go out every day.
Okay.
Sometimes 3 of them go out. It depends how many people we have to put on them.
So keeping an additional, to Bob's point, getting one and then just getting rid of existing, it's not the same as this whole ambulance thing. Where
No.
it would actually cut, so.
There's no cost
Yeah.
associated with it, doesn't sound like you're not getting a trade-in. If you have, can you estimate so you have 3, you're gonna get, if you get a 4th, when does the next one have to be purchased? I mean, what,
No.
no what? No, you don't have to, or no, you don't have an estimate of when that happens?
I would say, someone will talk to you in 5 years about it.
And will that be you?
Shelley,
Yeah, and the historical equipment line, I mean, speaks to the lack
Well, we
of.
can put it in the historical firehouse until we need it. That's where we can put all these.
I wasn't even going near that, Bob. You can bring
He
that
just
up.
loves
So
it.
I
He
know.
just-
Put it in the historical, you know, we'll put it in there with
Got the
the
commission.
historical grass cutter.
There's another use, it's the
Yeah,
lower
good.
graveyard.
Any other questions on 421 highway?
So I'm okay with the $6,000.
Oh, yes, is everybody okay?
Yes.
It sounded like
Yeah.
that was the consensus.
I think your training's good too, same. we can just
Oh, yeah,
put
I'm
on.
sorry, I didn't go
Yeah,
through every line
It's the
item.
same, 800.
Yeah. Okay. Now to 422, construction and maintenance. Mary, we're finally getting there. Sorry. Okay, also known as highway improvements. I understand wages of police detail,
Yes, correct.
Yes.
and that looks like that's a good amount, unless anybody has any conversation about that. Okay, can you just give an overview of local improvements and why these 2 pieces are being cut out of here? Flags, I'm sorry, miscellaneous, which is flags, I think, or not just flags, but cones and safety equipment and that kind of stuff, and then public way safety.
That should
We
be,
did that.
yeah, that should be removed. I made an error now.
That 5,000 is gone?
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
gone.
But we split them out
I thought it was a one-time expense.
Which one, the five or the?
No, the 5, the
Oh, you're
miscellaneous.
talking about both, I thought you were talking about.
No, but
Okay.
so I was trying to get an idea, but I had noticed last year that I thought it was a one-time expense.
was, I'm
So that
sorry.
5,000 should come out?
That's right, pull it.
Okay.
And just for history, we split both public ways and miscellaneous out because we wanted Harold to think about them for the projects in which they related to.
Right.
Makes a lot of sense, and I know I want to give Mary time to talk about hers. But let's first talk about local improvements, which are highways, and things that relate to highways.
That's correct.
And last year, I know the question had come up, what roads are you looking at? What are your plans in 2015? What do they include?
Well, the money being spent there will still be the same thing as your paint, line painting, and your signs that need replacing. As far as the roads improvement, that list on what roads we're doing, I have not made out yet. I haven't done that, but remember, out of that comes drainage, out of that comes catch basin repair, and I think we did something like 40 of them this year. And you didn't pay for, there wasn't much road repair as far as paving goes out of 194. A lot of it was eaten up with drainage repairs, and we will be doing that again this year.
Are any of the roads not getting there?
There's 25,000 for sweeping, 15,000 we pay for line painting,
Catch basin.
yeah, and then catch basin cleaning.
But you do a lot of road paving with the Chapter 90 money.
Chapter 90 has been where the money comes
What do
up.
we get from that, about 212?
It's impossible to say. They're talking more money this year, because last time, this year, they were talking more money too, and then they cut us in half.
What did we get last year?
What was it? 287?
Yeah, 287.
That's 2013, 2013?
We were scheduled for, what, 400,000?
Okay.
And the governor cut it back.
And then this year, with the 117 work,
117 work.
the resurfacing.
That money will now, we will look now at some of our local roads to go and do that.
Okay, but that didn't come out of
That did not come out of that.
That's
117 was
chapter
chapter
90 money. And-
Yep.
Okay.
Are you going to be able to do sort of this idea of sort of twice as many roads with this new approach that
One and a half anyway.
Sorry.
Yeah, 1.5.
So it worked.
Wait, go back to that.
Place
So
recycling.
Harold.
Oh, the way that you
Yeah.
repaired 117?
Yeah.
Which is good.
I'll be talking to the selectmen about it.
It's great.
In sort of sometimes thinking out, what would it mean if the Department of Transportation were to take over 117?
Okay.
Okay, that was a good question.
They were ready for
Ready for that one.
I got the point.
I think I might ask them. Yeah.
It means you can do more roads than 117. Oh, good.
Yeah, I know, I'm not saying anything which is unusual. All right, okay, here we go again. On a projection of the life of 117 from Lancaster to 495, if we were ahead, and next time it'll have to be done conventional. Now, this does not include repair your sidewalks, your drainage, your piping, and any curbing. My estimate was $2,440,905. If I say the road you have right now will last you 14 years, then the snow, okay, so just keep that figure in mind. Then, as far as our, and I'm jumping here, as far as our snow plowing goes, that's $51,000 a year for 117 alone is what it's costing us. For snow, correctly, for snow. So, when you combine, if you divide 14 into 2,440,000, you come out with $174,350, plus the $51,000. So that road, if you took it over a 14-year period, it would cost you $225,350 a year. That's what it will cost you.
Okay, and so that's potentially the savings.
That would be your savings.
But we're talking about savings as in 51 grand that we wouldn't have to use in snow and ice.
That would
We're
be
over
nice.
snow and ice all the time.
Right.
That's right.
We've been talking to Harold about increasing the 180, and maybe we don't have to increase the 180 because there's 50 grand more in there now.
There's 50,000.
Yeah.
And as far as your,
It certainly wouldn't.
I just
yeah. Yeah.
accepted the
as
savings.
far as your paving, on today's prices, you would save the
Money does.
$174,350, because when it comes time for that road to be done, unless you want to put $174,000 aside, and by the time I'm talking, I guarantee that $2 million will be $3 million.
And what, assuming it goes to the state, what amount, or what percentage of that represents Chapter 90 money, so therefore we would lose that, right?
Small.
They were talking, what, Don, 10%? They were talking such a small amount,
Lots.
about 28,000, I think.
It was around 28,000.
It's a big deal.
I remember,
Yeah.
I just couldn't remember the number, but I remember it was gonna be small.
And the point that Harold made, which was an excellent point, was they only consider linear miles. And the amount of money we put into 117 is it's a much wider road than most of all of our back roads. So we do more road because the road is not as wide.
Now, let me just ask a question, because it does relate to snow and ice. That, whether or not 117 is taken over, does not affect the $194,000. I mean, it's just a number. What, the 5842 line item in this budget.
No,
Is that correct?
it would affect it, but it just means that he'd be able to
Do more.
You would have that thing. I usually try not, except for catch basin repair, not to spend any of our money on 117.
Okay, because you're going to use your Chapter 90 money on 117.
And I won't have to use it now at all. Now we look at the back roads. But yes, Chapter 90 has paid for what you have now. That was a one-shot deal. You're not going
Yeah,
to
I'm
get
not
away
gonna see
with
that
that
again.
again.
And you wouldn't have to do the catch basins on 117 if it were taken over.
If someone would take it over by the state, I wouldn't touch a catch basin.
So there would be more, so this money would be more used,
Be used
could
in
be
our
used for
local roads.
local roads. That's what I was trying to get to.
Yes.
Okay, no changes in this particular line item for this year, though you have, no, you're about 50% spent. Nothing else coming up that, no, okay. Anybody else have comments on 422? Oh, I'm sorry, Mary. Public waste, so the 8,100 is, as I understand it, is because of roads that are not as, to paint lines and fog lines on roads that are not covered in Harold's budget, 5842 line item.
12 roads.
And these are the same roads that you've done in the prior years?
Yes.
Okay. And the amount for line painting out of the 8,100 is about?
About 5,800.
And the balance now, can you just tell us, I know that you had done some work with the police department to identify some signage that needed to be.
Yes, we contacted the police chief last fall and asked him to ask his officers when they were out to make a list of road signs that were faded, lost reflectivity, damaged, whatever. And Officer Luke Hamburger made a very extensive list. And we decided with the list, we would start with Main Street as our priority. And we figured maybe we might be able, and replace the signs yearly, that maybe we could do 15 signs with the remainder of the money that we receive. And so I included the lists of the signs. And these are safety issues, and especially the signs that have lost their reflectivity, they can't be seen at night as well as they should be. And so they need to be replaced. Another thing is what we like to call private ownership. And some of the signs, like the no parking signs that are completely faded out, just make the town look dumpy. And, you know, they have to go and be replaced if they need to be replaced. So we've started the list, and the remainder of the money can go towards replacing those signs.
Did you say that you're repainting the lines on the same roads as you did last year?
Yes, the 12 roads that are listed.
And so the paint is such that it doesn't last more than a year?
No, 1 year.
Yeah, we would.
They repaint every year.
I live on Wattaquatic, and it looks great when it looks amazing when it gets painted, and it never, a month later.
Yeah, a month later.
It's still
Unbelievable.
believe me.
Is this a reflective paint?
I need them.
Yes, it's a reflective paint.
So this paint goes down very flat, but isn't there another paint that may be elevated an
Yes,
eighth of
there
an
is.
inch?
Yes, there is.
And I'm sure it's much more expensive, but
Yes, it is.
it lasts several years,
It should last for at least 4 or 5 years.
even though we've got snow plows scraping on it?
Yeah, well, we've got it down on 117 right now in the section that the state redid.
And is there a preference for not using that?
Yes.
What might that be?
Money.
How much more would that be?
Oh, I'd say probably 5 times.
5 times, so 15,000 is in your budget.
Anyway, and that's
5,800
a
is in
quick
theirs.
guess, because what puts the paint down that we use,
Yes.
a truck goes down the road and does
Yes.
it. What does that is a man walking behind it with a big kettle,
Okay,
and they're putting plastic down.
okay. All right, well, we like,
So the money we
we like
save
doing the same thing over
turning
and
it
over.
over to the
That's
state.
clearly what we like.
Well, you do it every year, it pays to do it every year.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's, if you think about the math,
It works out
it's
better.
more cost effective to do cheaper paint every year.
Yes.
It doesn't, we do get calls about in the springtime, how it's faded. And unluckily, we wait till fall to paint, because we have roads we're paving.
Yeah.
And the last thing, these contractors, they're painting what, 3 cents a linear foot?
Something like that.
2.85. They don't want to come in for a half a mile.
Yeah.
They want to come in for miles and get it done, just,
Okay.
so it's a catch-22.
So I'm just gonna pick on one thing you said, and, no, not you, I was coming behind you, not you yet. I think I've supported your cause before. I think the lineup painting idea is a good idea, but the sign thing I'm wrestling with, right? Because it's this whole pride of ownership idea, which I completely understand. It's just thinking about it as what the average taxpayer, given all the noise that we've heard about spending, what they would say to spending money on replacing a sign because it was slightly faded and it didn't, you know what I mean? I'm just trying to get my hands around, is that, would the average taxpayer think $2,000 or $3,000 or whatever the price is that worth it every year to do?
No, I recommend that you drive around town at night.
I do.
No, I think the question, Mary, is,
The pride of ownership, I mean, it's just an afterthought. I mean, it's a safety issue. And if, some of the signs, I mean, they're like,
But no parking's not a safety issue.
no, but they are in the rules, and the traffic rules and regulations, and they have to be there.
the signs you're proposing to do in 2015, the no parking signs, or are they,
They're on the low priority. If you'll notice, the list
Yeah.
is according to priority, and they're at the bottom because they're not high safety signs, but they are listed in the traffic rules and order, and so they need to be there. But they're serving no purpose right now as blank signs.
Right.
Yeah, I'm playing devil's advocate,
Yeah,
right? So.
yeah.
so I think that I would encourage you, given, and maybe this is what you're saying, is given the times, is to replace the signs where there's a safety issue. You have that, and you say priority, I just haven't had, I don't know which ones, so that if you're identifying your number one priority for this year, if you could identify the ones that have reflection issues and put
The
that.
no parking signs that they're proposing are, that we're proposing are just probably $500 is the total. Right, that's not,
Okay. And that doesn't really have to be done this year. There's something everybody can look at. Any other discussions on construction and maintenance? Okay. Yes?
Do you need me for anything before,
Do you want to talk about, do you want to be here for anything, for the transportation?
I think.
Okay,
we're fine.
or snow and ice? Snow and sand. Okay, no.
Thank you.
Good night, Mr. President.
President of the world. Okay, you know, I don't know if it makes any sense to go through, I mean, the budget is what the budget is, which is for snow and sand, or snow and ice is $180,000. And that's what we do year after year. Is this the time that we would want to, no, okay.
I have
We're to talk about
no
it.
interest in going over it.
Yeah,
We know
okay.
that we've gone past it every single year, and we know why it's at 108,000.
And we'll just hold off to go over the, where you are now until we talk about the transfer, okay?
Okay.
So does anybody else want to talk snow and sand? I don't see even the point.
No.
Next one is street lighting, 424. And these are located in 3 areas. The budget this year is $6,750, the same as last year. The electric has been running, and we just talked about electric, so we'll keep that as, you know, level funded. But in 2013, it was $52.43, and it's running a little less than 50%, but that's probably because it was summer it was covering. This is for, there had been a long discussion last year. We gave you a little extra money to deal with the rodents.
How are they
Anything
treated?
happening with the rodents on the repairs of street lighting at Danforth Lane?
They're doing good.
Are they happy as can be?
They're happy. The repairs, I believe, without even not looking at, have run us a lot more money.
With 0 spent so far this year.
0?
Mm-hmm.
Then where's those repairs going on?
The roads thing was the screening on the...
They were gonna hire somebody, they were gonna
They were
hire
getting-
this
Biting
Hudson
you.
Pest Control for $250.
I don't know that, okay.
Yeah, I don't know what happens.
What's that?
Traffic
Yeah, it was, they
They
were,
may have put under traffic lights. Our repairs have been running higher because we lost a pole.
No,
Somebody.
you know what, he just fixed it, so I
We
didn't
just
get the
picked-
bill.
Oh, we haven't got the bill.
Oh.
Yeah, we lost one of the poles down there and that.
Where, at Danforth?
Danforth,
What's
yeah.
happening at Danforth?
And,
Now is it a beaver that ate it or
Yeah.
something? Now gotten to a bigger road?
and that had to be sent out and be welded and was put back in again. We lost some, starters for the lights in those units.
So,
I expect a
you'll use that.
hefty bill on that.
Okay. So can we just ask, because there was such a big discussion, that we've got an extra $250 to deal with the rodents? Happy
So
to-
far, the rodents seem to be doing fine. We're not having rodent problems, so now we end up with poles getting hit. I don't know which is worse.
Do you know how much that bill is?
I don't, I didn't
No.
get it yet.
Okay.
That's gotta come in. We've got a bill from Bond Welding, and then we got Jim Boudreaux's.
Oh, okay.
do you get, I'm not,
Yeah.
do you get a quote before you have the work done? So do you have some ideas for what? If you just say
No,
that
it had to be sent out to be welded.
Yeah.
The post had to be welded, and then it put back up again. No, because we're under 5,000, so we use with discretion on it.
Okay.
And by the time I go and try to get a quote for something that's laying on the ground,
Tree warden comes along.
He ships it off to somebody. Let's burn this. Any discussion on street lighting? Any more further discussion on street lighting?
Nope.
Next is 433 transfer station. The total budget in 2015 is 120,000 versus 99,000 in the prior year. That $21,000 difference is related entirely to additional equipment that is also duplicated under capital requests. It's a $22,000 for a couple of different. No, we're not talking about capital requests, but it's one new recycling container and one new compactor container. And where do you think it should be?
I think they should be in capital requests.
I think you've never had any kind of equipment purchases like that before in this.
No, the containers have reached a point in their life where they're rotting through. If you go up there and look at them, you'll see it.
Yeah, so I agree with Bob, and I don't know how everybody else feels to take it out of the operating budget. This is long life
it's
on
a
this,
cap.
I think. What do you
But
think?
I think I think it may very well go back to where it is.
Because?
You don't want a separate article.
Yeah, we don't want a separate article. Well, that's what we did we just talked about one.
I know, but why not a separate article?
Because it's too small to have.
You could combine it with some other articles.
We could, but that's typically been the strategy is if we decide, if capital planning says it's a must-have, we decide that we agree. Oftentimes, we put it back in the operating budget because we just want to eliminate clutter on the town meeting warrant.
Yeah, I don't have a problem.
We just did
We
that
come to
with-
that conclusion.
We just did with the fire, $9,000 for a fire station boiler.
Right, but that was consistent with what was being done in the prior years with the
Right.
fire station boilers.
I understand, but the prior years, it was the same, it was almost 20,000.
The difference with that line is that there's always something we put in that Department 190 miscellaneous. There's always something like that.
Well, I'm just
This-
making the corollary.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
similar.
And it is very similar. It's a one-time purchase. For now, I would like to take it out of the budget. I understand Randy's point that maybe it goes back in, but maybe we combine it with a couple other inexpensive items
Small items.
on the warrant, and we have one article covering several items, which is what we
we've done
did
in the
last year.
past too, yeah.
But, so I don't want to argue about the disposition of it later. I would just like to say for now, I'm not saying take it off all spending lists. I'm just
Yeah.
saying that we've got to have it only one or the other. Let's take it out of the budget.
Well, and then what I said was, I think
Okay.
we still consider putting it back. It's
Yeah.
when we bet it, Stasha.
Sasha,
On the very off chance that it didn't pass, what does that do, Harold, to you to not have them?
We'd have to rent containers.
We
because
would
they're-
have to then go and see if whatever repairs to get them to a short period of time, or else, Shelley's right, we'd rent.
Or you
We'd
just
have-
rent.
We'd have to go and rent.
Okay.
Is it more cost effective to rent?
That's a good question.
Should we
I
think
haven't
about
got an
that?
answer for you.
yeah, I would look at that, that's an interesting,
I don't have an answer for that. I do know we are, I believe, and if I'm wrong, you will correct me, we have to bid this year.
Yes.
you have
Or
what,
we
I'm
have to
sorry?
talk to- We have to go out to bid for trash hauling and removal this year. And I expect that to go up.
That was a
The
question.
hauling alone will go up. Maybe the disposal will not, but the hauling will.
Because those have been, I mean, those have, the three, the disposal, hauling, and hauling, the trash and recycling hauling, have been under budget consistently.
Yeah.
And is there is that possibly, should your budget be reduced? And so what are you telling us?
I'm telling you, I don't know.
It's a moving target because we never know how much disposal we're gonna get, the price of items.
We took a lot out of the transfer station budget a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Right, but it's still sitting that it's been under each of the times,
Well, let me change the subject just a
Yeah.
little bit here.
Yeah,
You went way over on maintenance in 2013
we're gonna be over this year too.
for the
Already.
transfer station.
Already we're over.
What's going on there? And
The compactors.
the ones that you have.
we own those.
We own them. We lost what they call a rotophaser this year, and that's a $5,700
We
item.
just bought one of
Yeah, I
those
thought we
Yeah,
had
several
one.
years ago.
Blew up
Yeah,
another
the
one.
second one blew up.
They blew up another one.
What do they do?
They take single phase and turn it to three phase.
Oh, this is the electric stuff that I know.
And then we lost a motor in one of the compactors, and then our controlling units in both of them have been giving us trouble. And it's the age of the units and how much they've worked. And this cold weather that we had really caused us problems.
Can we rent compactors?
No, you can go down, those are the big units that are set there. Can we rent them? Yes. Oh, yeah.
Would it be cost effective to do that?
That one's old.
Those were put in when the transfer station went in.
No, I know, but
Are we talking rotophasers, or are we talking?
in the case of
Rotophasers.
renting them,
No, I agree.
that's not something that's easy to come by like the containers are.
For a price.
For a price, anything.
Yeah. No, it's not as easy, no. But companies do, trash companies do put them in. And you sign a contract for so many years that they would be there. And they'll probably give you that and the maintenance. I know what the company we have will.
So the question then comes, and if this is gonna go down a rat hole or it's too big a discussion, why don't we just outsource the whole recycling trash disposal operation?
I think I've mentioned that before in the past, haven't I?
Well, we talked about outsourcing snow and ice, which
Yes.
was intriguing too.
Well, Bob and I are working on that. Shelley and I have discussed this, and we have discussed this once with one of the vendors we use, BP Trucking. And that would be an interesting conversation, and I think I should have him first, and then he should come in and do a presentation.
Okay.
What's the delta between what you spend on the transfer station, just call it, forget the 20,000, just
Yeah,
call it 160,
160.
and the trash sticker income that you get?
My understanding is the trash sticker is about 50%, historically been 50%.
That's what you said
They
last year.
Is that right, historically?
They
It's
cover,
probably more than that.
Yeah,
It's more than 80,000.
yeah, they cover the
More than
disposal
80.
of the trash.
Oh,
Correct.
yeah.
Julie, they cover disposal of trash, correct?
It usually covers the expenses, just about the whole expenses and services, but not labor. That's about
That's
what
right,
I'd
that's
say.
right.
So we bring in about 80,000, right? Is that what you said, Julie?
Well,
You bring in more than 80.
Well, if
We
you're
bring it-
covering,
so-
if you're covering it all of the
It's probably
expenses.
close to 200,000.
100,000.
Close to 100,000?
Yeah.
All right, so that puts your expenses to 80,000.
Yeah, no, I just wonder, I'm just thinking about it in context of the outsourcing item, right? Ideally, I guess, a goal of ours should be to have this be self-funding.
Okay,
Is that,
but-
I mean, I'm just throwing it out there, right?
Okay, with those figures, the trash does cover itself.
Yeah,
What isn't covered is your recycling.
right.
That's what's costing.
And that's not paying for itself. We sometimes have to pay people to take that away.
Yeah, you pay people to haul it away, and then we do receive money for metal, paper, newspaper, cardboard, and mixed paper we receive for. Other than that,
Yeah.
everything else is a loser.
And it's on a sliding scale.
Yes.
It's different every.
It depends. So it's your recycling really that's cost
So-
where the money is.
I guess where I come out on this is the containers are failing.
That's correct.
The compactor machinery and electrical stuff is starting to fail because
That's
it's
right.
reaching the age of its useful life. So we're either going to have to require a large capital expenditure in the next 5 to 7 years.
I wouldn't know how, I wouldn't say it won't be huge, but you will have one, yes.
Or we should outsource in the next 5 to 7 years.
Yes, and then outsourcing, it depends what the town or everybody wants, because it could be outsourced and become really a cash plus.
Yeah, and it's a
You mean
political,
to charging too much, they would be charging.
it's a political football too, which I
You
don't,
got,
which I don't want to go down
oh,
right
okay.
now.
Well, if you don't want to do that, we're not going to be charged.
What do you mean charging too much? Does it mean that the rates would go up higher, that people would have to pay more?
It depends how you want to run it.
Does
You
the
could
town
have
still
that
want to subsidize it?
the townspeople of Bolton would pay nothing for it.
There are some people in town who have their own trash pickup, plus they help subsidize
Right.
the transfer station.
If you want to turn that into a transfer station that actually is a transfer station, that would be a cash cow.
Then the question is, do you want a regional, would you want it to be regional?
This is assuming that outsourcing is cheaper than doing it in-house, and I'm not sure we know that to be
No, we
a fact.
don't know.
No, we don't.
But would a company come in, and I know, yes, they would, is the answer. Would they come in and run our transfer station for the same money or less than we're running it when it's just for Bolton people only?
And the answer is yes.
The answer, well, for enough money, they'll do it, yes.
Right.
And enough
Would
being,
they want to, they would want to open it up.
They want it to scale.
Yeah.
They want it to scale.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Hudson, I believe Hudson residents have free trash dumping. Joe DePaul, BP Trucking runs it.
So, anyway, it's worth pursuing. I think right now, we've just got the containers on the list of capital items, and
Right, and we should look
that's what
at-
they should sit for now.
And we'll call and find out.
See how much it would be
Lisa.
to rent.
Yeah.
What the cost to
We'll see
rent.
what Lisa
Well,
calls.
and
Yeah.
there's lots of other things that should be examined periodically, like the price of stickers,
Yes.
right? I mean,
We're $250 now.
right, no, I know, I mean, but it's gone up $1.50 or so since
I
I
think-
moved in, right? So what's our schedule on, does it rise with the cost of everything else? Trash hauling's gonna go up, so should the stickers go up? Because to the extent the stickers don't go up, there's this whole subsidization problem again.
But
We're losing more money. I'm just throwing it out
I
there.
know, but I have trash containers at certain buildings that I own. My cost to dispose, now I may be cursing myself, I'd say for the last 2 years, maybe 3, has not moved one bit. We're still at the same. So I would presume ours will be that too. Now, if you go up higher on your bags, we lose tonnage, we lose income.
No, it's a
It's a
Balance,
balance.
a balance.
In Clinton, where Shelley lives, and my granddaughter, curbside is $2.50 a bag. You just take it to the curb and it's picked up and it's gone away. They are looking at using the $2.50 a bag and go private. Clinton's looking to go private, and they don't see the cost going up anymore. And they're gonna have recycling too.
But I think historically, we've tried to cover, I think we said the disposal and everything except the wages. Is that what you said?
Yeah, 100,000.
Historic, so unless that gets way out of whack, the pricing of the stickers is appropriate, based on the historical model we've had.
It's a juggling, it's a balancing act.
Okay.
And there have been emails going around in the area of, comparable, towns, and we're right, in the middle.
Okay.
As far as the cost of running the transfer station.
The bags.
The bags, the cost, okay.
Yeah.
Bags. So right now, just to sort of summarize where we're at, is we're going to remove the equipment, 22,000, is it, I guess it's the whole 22. Is there any reason to leave anything in that equipment line item? Is there any other equipment, there's $1,000 in this year.
Right, yeah.
So do you want to remove 21,000 and leave 1,000 in?
Okay, yeah.
Okay. But then we would like to see the cost of rental, and then, we'll deal with the containers when we deal with capital.
All right.
Okay?
Listen, if it's $5,000 a year to rent it,
I
we
understand
just
that.
kick the problem for 4 years.
I understand.
I mean, it's
agree.
easy math.
No, I agree. If we can kick that, if I could
Somebody
kick
else's
all the
problem,
containers down the road and never have to worry about them, I'm all for that.
It's somebody else's problem. And so there would be no, and just getting back to this, I'm sorry, one more time, is that even though we've been running less on trash disposal hauling and trash hauling and recycling hauling, you believe the budget should be left the same?
I'll leave it, right now, it's an unknown until Dawn negotiates or goes out to bid.
So what's going out to bid? The disposal, the hauling, and the recycling?
That's
Yes.
right, everything.
When is that happening? Is that currently?
The contract's up July 1st, so.
How long was the duration of that contract?
3 years.
Yeah.
Do you think we should add in a line for reserve with the
No, I don't think so.
of what the contract's gonna be?
No,
No,
I think
I-
that, we'll leave that just to the schools.
I'm,
Yeah,
300,000.
300,000, yeah.
All right, I just wanted to check.
yeah.
So it's over July 1st, and it was last timing, 3 years. These are hard ones, because I'd love to be able to take this down, but it's just,
Well,
impossible to
I'm
do.
looking at the recycling, and even with a new contract, it's
You come down
at
6.
14 or 12, that's gotta be able to come down to 16.
Wait a minute.
The 5282, recycling hauling.
Okay.
Yeah, down to 16.
Mhm.
I think that would be okay.
Okay.
Hey, Bob, you made a cut. Good job.
And then, and nothing with the trash disposal. That's been running under I don't know, 4,000, 3,000, yeah, I could probably take.
Yeah, their excess every year is about, it's close to 20%, but maybe $500 is what you could reduce it.
No. I think you could reduce it a little bit, a couple thousand also. Well, maybe
1,000.
1,000, you want to bring that down? I mean, it's not a pretty round number, but we could bring it down to 59.
59.
Okay. And
Which
then we'll
one
just,
was it?
the 5280. Right?
Yeah.
To bring that down to what?
59,000. And we'll leave trash hauling, not very much. Okay, and so that's where we're on that one. These others should be quick, we hope. 439 landfill. Anybody else have anything else on this? Okay, I just want to make sure. 439 landfill well monitoring. It's 7,440. It has been running about 6,000 so far. Nothing yet. Right? Do you do that at a certain time of the year?
They do it several times during the year.
Yeah, no, in
No
6 months we have
surprises-
nothing.
No surprises yet.
When do we get to stop doing that?
I think about 92 years from now. It's 100 years we gotta monitor.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, really. For real.
And how did we come up with that 7,440, because that's not where we...
Bid.
Hmm?
That's,
That was the bid?
yeah, it's a
But-
quote, right?
No, but we haven't been paying.
We haven't been paying.
Linda handles that.
Oh, Liz,
I
yeah,
think
we're handing it
that's-
from Linda.
Or that's the,
That's the company out
Board of
of
Health, I'm
Clinton,
not
Board of Health.
sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
should we just check with them
Yeah,
to see
I'll
if
check, 'cause I...
we can't, okay.
Well, you know, I was closer to 57 or 59, like call it 6,000.
Yeah, you could call it 6,000.
Actually, I'm sorry, Aaron, my question was more on the water well monitor that we're doing for the people. I'll ask that.
439.
We'll get to there, yeah.
Yeah, we'll get there.
And this is the one monitoring for...
The landfill,
Landfill,
yeah,
Right.
yeah, which we have to do forever. because
Forever,
nobody asks.
right.
Yeah.
So, we'll check and we'll see if we can
Okay.
make that more, chew that up a little bit. Are you gonna check on that and let me know?
Yes.
Okay. Great. 450 water, is this the one you're thinking about?
Yeah, so this is, oh, sorry, yeah, you skipped sewer?
No, sewer is Dawn's, remember?
So
450 is
450
water.
for the, we had some gas leaks, right? And then we offered to monitor the surrounding people's water wells for a period of time.
Yes.
How long did we agree to do that?
As long as there's MTBE showing in the well.
And so there still is?
Yes.
And this was a strange one because we had a budget in 2013 of 7,000, no expense because you were using up an article.
Correct. The article
And the
is
article's
used up.
gone, it's
That's
used
gone.
up.
Yes.
And so for the first time, we're seeing a little, well, not, I guess, not so much. And so
Yeah.
we've spent close to $1,600.
Yes.
And did it cost you 7,000 last year to, we had no way of knowing.
Yeah,
It depends if we have to change the
filters,
the
or we
filters.
have, we're still purchasing the water, so the water that we buy is
Oh.
from that,
Yeah.
or any testing or things like that. We just had a visit from DEP last week. They're still trying to work to close it out, but
We had a lot of, we took, 5 samples?
samples from all the area,
Mhm.
people down the
And
street.
hopefully, nothing shows and
Or maybe we can close it.
Yeah.
So what's this present spend right now?
We don't know, so, well, through December 31st, we spent 1,600 of the 7,000.
So why don't we double that and then add?
But I don't know, is this, can
No,
we do
because
that?
I've been, for the first half of the year, I spent out the rest of the article.
the article.
So
Oh, that's
We
right.
just now
So
started.
7,000 looks like what you've been spending?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's
So we
not-
can, we have no, we haven't spent it.
How many people does this affect?
The restaurant and the apartment house and Bolton Wine and Spirit. And whatever
The
goes.
real estate office.
The real estate.
Yeah.
So what restaurant?
The classic pizza.
Oh, okay.
No.
That is a restaurant.
There's no food.
It's, you consider.
We're not anti-business in Bolton.
No,
Yeah.
I like pizza,
Exactly.
but I just didn't think of it as a restaurant, I just didn't know what restaurant.
Name another one.
Yeah. It's okay, so we'll just leave that at 7,000 only because that's what you've been spending and. Okay,
Yep.
we'll see that.
We've gotten a break for a while with using
Yeah,
ours.
using the, yeah, that's
Right.
true, that's good. Cemetery. This is account 491. Purchase of services of 3,000 and 5,000 for ground maintenance. This is level funded, actually reduced from 2013. Purchase of services is digging, as I understand.
That's correct, yes.
And there was some question last year over software implementation.
Yes.
How is that stand?
It's implemented. We're working on getting all the data put in, but we do have the software.
And is that kind of, what's the benefit of that? Is there a cost benefit?
Well, we don't, the only expense we have that runs year to year is, I believe it's $300 for the licensing, but we own the software now, so we don't have any recurring expense other than that. And the benefit is now we'll have all the records online. It'll be, in a database. I'll have it in the computer. People can access it online.
Oh, that's great.
And if we have another fire, we don't have to worry again, because that was our...
It's backed up off-site and all this other fun stuff.
Yeah, it is. Well, one of your statements, you kept saying "we." You got a mouse in your pocket? It's "we." I'm not good.
I am working on putting
There we
my
go.
data.
The noble we.
Excellent, thank you.
He's using the noble we.
Now on grounds maintenance, I have just a general overall, or just a top question on this. So I know it covers a lot of different things. There's also work that the Historical Commission does on the on cemeteries, on headstones and that type of
Headstones,
thing.
yes.
Is there any duplication in what you're doing?
None. No.
Ours is just mowing and basic cleanup.
Clean up and wall repair. We repaired a wall down on South Cemetery. The gates that were on Pan are now being repaired. It's that type of work.
We don't
that may
touch
be
the
done.
gravestone.
Yeah, and that's what, all they're doing is gravestone work.
They're doing gravestone work, correct.
Questions on it?
Nope, all set.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on, so to date, there's still about
Harold, I have one
quite a
question.
bit.
The ground maintenance for the cemeteries,
Yes.
that's including mowing the cemetery?
No, that comes under,
Oh, I'm sorry.
no, that comes under 190.
All right, I thought so.
No.
So
That
you-
would be a maintenance work. If we have to have any trees taken down, if we have, we did walls, trees, we also use it, Pan Cemetery has got to a point, that new section, where we'll be buying the stakes that we drive in
Oh,
the
yeah,
ground
yeah.
to mark that out. Every year I say I'm gonna do it, and
Yeah.
every year I don't do it. Something else jumps up.
Kind of a weird question. We get, when someone's buried there,
Yes.
we get reimbursed some amount
Yes.
of money for the
Yes.
the preparation and all, right?
Yes.
So this, we always need to keep in mind that some of these items, there's money that's flowing into the general fund to offset some of these
Yes.
costs.
And as a question that's probably not a fun question to answer, so in your purchase of services, so far you're almost spent for the entire year in this, so there's no way of course, planning on that. Have you had in the past to,
We've had to come back.
you've had to come back, okay.
Yeah.
Looks like that might be the same thing this year. David?
The grounds maintenance has averaged 2,100 the last 3 years. I don't know the current run rate, but that seems to me like the
It's low
5,000
right
is
now.
probably too high.
That could be, so I think that, does that come into play because you haven't done some of the things that you were planning
I
on
have
doing?
not done, we haven't started on the Pan Cemetery and laying that out.
Yeah, back in 11, they ran a deficit in that account.
In the grounds maintenance account?
No.
Because
No,
that
well,
was-
I don't know what the budget was because it was 3,045.
Yeah, so that was
And then
2,000 lower almost than,
So I guess, the question is, will you do the work? Because, the issue being that if, you can plan for it, which is good, but if you're not going to have the opportunity to do it, then the money is being budgeted for in a year, year and it's being...
I understand.
Yeah.
It will be done, and I do all of the, where the gates were sent out, I haven't received the gates back, nor do I have received the bill. And I expect that to be, I'm hoping it won't exceed $2,000, but we'll see. And that gives us 3, and we'll have to start buying all the stakes in order to start laying out that cemetery.
And the last item under your budget group is Memorial Day, and that has been reduced from, it was a 3,800, it is a 3,800 budget in 2014. I wasn't here, I don't know why. I'm sure there's an explanation. It's been brought back down to 1,300, which is consistent, more consistent with prior budgets than is the actual for 2013.
Yeah.
Can you just say what's happening in 2014 that was a $3,800 budget? Is there a plan?
Which are flags that were purchased? It must have been purchases.
No, it wouldn't even be coming up till this year. I mean, till this May.
The town's 275.
No, it wouldn't be this year.
We went up to 3,800. We purchased flags and markers.
Nothing's been
Yes.
purchased here.
We purchased in 14, we're going to purchase flags and markers for the cemetery, for the graves.
Oh, flags for the graves for
That's right.
Memorial Day.
That's right.
And those will be usable from year to year? then?
Well, no.
No.
They disintegrate, and markers for the veterans.
So, so then I guess the question is, why this year and why not in every year make that purchase? Not that I'm saying you...
Once they're purchased, we're able to buy in quantity, so we can...
Oh, so you're buying a large amount that can be used over several years?
Right.
Yeah.
And the markers are...
Those markers are
More
permanent?
permanent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
are the markers permanent?
If they're not stolen, yes.
You guys have moved to composite, right? You're not buying the brass that they were stealing. You're buying...
Yeah, composites, yeah.
On that note, has there been any discussion on the markers for police?
No.
Oh, you raised that last year.
Yeah, I'll follow up.
Any other discussion on Memorial Day?
No.
Okay, good. Jay? What?
No less.
No, nice. The transfer.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so what's going on, guys? Because I know there's a couple
Jeez.
stores coming in, but
What are we doing?
geez. Geez Louise, okay. So you're asking, I thought, for an extra 50,000, but it
No.
sounds like it's...
We need an extra 100,000.
Are you on the sand and salt now?
If you go down and look at the pile, it's disappearing. As far as salt goes, we're loaded down, but depends what we get.
Get through
And
these
from
two
what I
storms.
expect from now on in storms, the temperature is starting to come up. So now the snow will become heavier, they will more water content, and that's usually where you put more and more salt out.
Is that right? Yeah.
First to break the vent and then to get it to move. It doesn't like that nice fluffy snow that we get at 0.
Where are we now?
At 18,636.
And that's after the 100,000.
Yeah.
Are you doing the salt brine thing again this year?
We have not, because of the temperature being as low as it is. Now with the temperature coming up, we will be putting salt right out. I would have done it for this storm coming up, but we have personnel problems.
I'm sorry.
Everyone got sick, including Shelley, so we knew it was legit.
Yeah, we thought that was the day after the Super Bowl illness that
I was
a lot of
watching
people
Downton
had.
Abbey, I was not watching the Super Bowl.
Oh, a good God.
You paid Shelley to be out sick.
Your mother was very gracious
Yeah,
to
right,
me.
right. So, I
She
guess,
didn't call up and flaunt. The Peyton Manning got beat.
so 100,000 now, does it make any sense to not do, I mean, originally, like, earlier today it was 50. The reason for the other 50,000?
We have just run this last 2 inches was very expensive, way over what usually we spend. And we're looking right now at 10 to 12 inches of snow coming. I'm looking at a storm coming in Sunday, and then later on that week, we're looking at another one. This
That would
storm
bring us
coming
up
up,
to-
this one with 10 to 12 inches of snow, it's gonna be a long duration.
Yeah, it's the first week of February. I don't have a problem with
This one
that.
tomorrow.
No.
Yeah,
Did, Monday?
Sunday, it's supposed to be worse.
Yeah.
Right?
yeah, that's what they say.
Yeah.
Then I got a report we're gonna miss it, so.
Not
really?
to everyone deserves sick time if they obviously need it, but did Mondays cost you more because you
I
had
had
to
to-
outsource most of it?
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to bring drivers in and whatever they're gonna charge us, they're gonna charge us.
You need to pay.
I had no one to put in the seat, I had no employees.
When do you
Really?
actually remove snow? How many inches on the road?
I started to.
So we really didn't get much more.
We got a little more than that, and what I had to do is, we call it, we had to slush it off.
Yeah, I wondered, because it seemed like there was a lot of sand
Yep.
and there was slushy.
Yeah.
We weren't supposed to get that
No,
much. We were only
just
supposed to
stay
get a coat.
No,
We found it last year, we'll find it.
I know, not to worry about, but so this year is becoming a comparable to last year financially, expenditure-wise. I was just looking at last year's,
It's 380 when I was.
yeah, 380, and this year we're at 3, with this
yeah, we're
request
at
over.
380, and I wouldn't doubt we'd go beyond that, just what's
Actually, that 380 includes the amount you found at the end.
What we're showing in 2013, yeah.
And
So
I
that
think-
is a true.
That's a true expenditure, yeah.
But we did get some too, didn't we, from the FEMA?
That's
last
right,
year?
too, we got money back from FEMA.
That was
Oh,
for
that was
13,
used.
I mean, for the...
It was that, but we got it in the previous, the next one,
February
correct,
5th
absolutely.
store.
But that just goes in the general fund, right?
That's, yeah.
Yeah, no, and we can't offset it,
Yeah.
but it's, at least some of it, and really, these storms are not storms that are FEMA storms.
No.
No, so look for any money from that, that's not gonna happen. Can we just entertain a motion?
I move that we authorize overspend on account 423 to the amount of $100,000.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion?
I just want to make sure I'm keeping track. This will be a total of 200,000 authorized overspend?
200,000 authorized
Total.
overspend.
Yeah.
Total.
This and the previous one.
Right, the previous
Correct.
100.
Thank you.
And that 380 brings us almost exactly to what we spent last year.
Yeah. Well, we can only hope that we don't have another March like we had last year, because that was a bad.
Please.
Yeah,
I
bad.
have one question.
Do we need to vote?
Global warming.
Okay. Well, this is it. This is why this is happening. So we have a motion, and it's been seconded, and any more discussion? So all those in favor of authorizing an additional $100,000 overspend for snow and ice, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck in the next couple of days.
Really?
Be safe.
Thank you. Thanks for coming in, Hal and Michelle.
Thank you.
Did I have a choice?
And
Okay, we'll just...
No, but just ask
I'll
you.
email you.
It makes us feel better.
Hey, Harold, thank you for being nice while you were here.
First time for everything.
Harold and I didn't fight tonight. I mean, it's everyone.
You must be getting sick too, huh?
So we have just a few things we'll try and get through quickly on the advisory committee business, other business. We had minutes from the January 14th, 2014 meeting that everybody received. Does anybody have any comments on them? I don't have any notes, but...
I haven't reviewed them.
I have not.
Okay, I'll tell you right now, folks, that we want to get these minutes out and reviewed and done on a weekly basis. And Julie will have the minutes for the last meeting, prior meeting, and the meeting before for the next, next meeting. And I really want to encourage you to look at them when they come, when they're sent to you by Linda, and respond to her, because what happens is that these don't get in, and if you look back at 2013, a lot of minutes are not even posted. So really, it's something that I really, really want to get done.
I agree with you, but I don't think it's just a matter of it not being posted because we haven't done them.
I agree with
Yeah.
that.
Okay, I can follow up on that, but
always
I
been-
guess
there was a whole ton of them last year.
I followed that, the advisory, for, I don't know how many years now.
It's
and
consistently that way.
It's consistently that
So
way.
We approved
just
all
wanted to
minutes
know.
for last year,
We did.
so.
And I would note that if you go on, not to say that we shouldn't have a higher standard, but if you go on other town departments
Oh, it's
and look at their
not
minutes,
good, I don't want to
they're
even,
there,
no,
not-
I don't want to even be,
non-existent,
I don't want to even be there because.
There was a couple times we had some minute approval parties
right.
last year. So
Well, that's good,
Pizza one
but you
time,
know
yeah.
what? We're going to do it on a weekly basis, there won't be any parties, it's going to be home.
Chairman usually buys pizza for those.
Well,
Yeah, right.
I generally respond to Linda Wood
I
that
do.
same day, so.
No, I'm not
Open it up and
criticizing
I'll
you.
sign.
Here,
Good to
so
go.
we'll have a signing party, but,
All right.
okay? Everybody promise?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving on. There has been an increase, what we did for the veterans agent, we asked that he get together with Julie to discuss the budget. He has an $11,000 budget this year. Am I right? And it's been running, it's about 75% spent. And so and you came in with a level funded budget, and so we asked that he meet with Julie to go over what the 2015 budget should look like, and he did so today. Can you just bring this up to date?
Yes, we met and we discussed it and decided that $1,000 a month is a good estimate, so we're gonna go at $12,000 for FY15.
Okay.
He is running short this year and we'll probably need a reserve fund transfer of about $2,500, but that was due to a one-time purchase or reimbursement for hearing aid.
And that doesn't look like a recurring type of expense, so 1,000 seems reasonable. And that's,
How many people? Excuse me, 2 people?
Yep.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
that's what we asked him to do.
that we did what he was asked to do, and Julie met with him, and that will be reflected next week. And just as far as coming in for, he won't come in for the overspend, for the transfer request until he needs it, right? Or is it something that's needed now, or when are you encouraging him to come in?
Within the next few weeks.
Okay, and you'll keep,
But she already, she reflected that already. In what she just sent out, I think, right?
No, this wasn't,
I thought I saw that.
no, this wasn't.
Or maybe I saw the request.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, Bob has been waiting, there's some other things to talk about, but I think we'll just put that on hold to talk about excise tax calculation for weeks.
Wow. Grab me some.
Comedian this evening.
Oh my God, this is fat.
A lot of detail here, and I'm really gonna skip over a lot of the detail once you ask about it. But I printed it all out. I don't think we have any extra copies. So, so I printed out the detail in case we do want to go over it. So a couple weeks ago, I came in here and said that there's a thing called the February commitment, which is a major increase, a major statement from the state of what our excise taxes is going to be. And based on that, Julie pointed out rightfully that my methodology was flawed. So one of the reasons we waited till this long is because we want to make sure you were here to look at it this time and see how it goes. So what we have are the years across the top. The actual excise tax collected in that year. And then underneath that, the state calls them commitments, the major commitment for that year. So the major commitment is the first commitment. It's an electronic transfer of information that the state sends to each city and town the last week of January or the first week of February that says, here's your first information about excise excise taxes in, they're on a calendar year. So for them, it's the first one of 14.
So this is actually, when you say commitment, this is revenue, this is money works.
This is what we're going to use to base our billing on. And it will include cars, trucks, boats, trailers, anything that's chargeable, there'll be a mix in there. As far as the state's concerned, this commitment that comes out at the end of January is commitment 1, and then there are various other commitments that come out that are always much smaller through the end of the year, although to the state, the end of the year is December. So we just have to realize that our fiscal year, as we go through this, is a little 6 months different than what the Department of Revenue is telling us. Or is it Department of Revenue that's in?
Registry of Motor Vehicles.
Registry of Motor Vehicles, thank you. So what I've done is I've used, and I went through various models of using the major commitment, which is this January one, the major commitment plus smaller commitments, just the smaller commitments, to try to find out what works. A lot of different iterations here. And this one comes the closest. So if you look at fiscal calendar year 2013, the actual excise tax we collected ending June 30th was $727,939. The commitment that came in earlier that year was $552,066. Now, go down one line and over to the left. So I'm saying I'm going to take the commitment that came in February of 2013, and I'm going to use that to predict the excise tax of our fiscal year 2014. And then you drop down to where it says 135% of February commitment is $745. So as I sit here right now, or last year, that is what I would predict the fiscal 14 to be. Okay? And if you look at that methodology over the prior years, right? You look at the line that's that 745, 289, and then you look at the numbers to the right, you go below it, and that's how far off those predictions would have been from the actual number. So in 2013, the prediction said 728, 765. That was high by 826. The prior year, it was low by 33,000. The prior year, it was low by 5969. The prior year in 2010, this estimate would have been too high by 31,800. Okay? So historically, you'd say this thing is plus or minus $33,000. But we only have 4 years of history here. We don't have records beyond that of what these commitments are. So based on the fact that we got a commitment last week of $620,000, this says that our forecast for motor vehicle excise taxes would be $838,000, which is a big jump from
Is that
anything else.
135%?
Currently, we have 710
Yes.
as a placeholder.
Yeah, our placeholder is 710, but the 838 is, it's a huge jump from the prediction from fiscal 14, and it's a huge jump from the prediction from fiscal 13. You know, I think there's reason to be uncomfortable with that. It's the closest, you know, a plus or minus $30,000 is the closest fit overall, but there's reasons to be skeptical about that. If you say, I don't want to go with 135% of the commitment, I want to go with 130%, you come up with estimates that are consistently below the actual.
Except for 2010.
Except for 2010, right.
But you don't want to be over, because then you run into the
But if
risk
you're
of...
over $7,000, which is your track record over 4 years, it's
Right,
not that bad.
right, no, but you don't want to be over, so, there's some number that you want to raise it by, but you don't want
Although,
to raise it by.
being over by $30,000 isn't a killer.
No.
So,
As long as you have
it's,
some...
No, it offsets where we've been over on expenses historically too, in the same fiscal year.
yeah. But, even if you go with the lower one where you've got more consistent surpluses,
Yeah.
where you've underestimated, it's way better than, to be fair, Julie's been the sole person responsible for this, and she really hasn't had any help doing it. She's been conservative in it. But, you're saying, okay, you're gonna underestimate by $26,000 or $60,000. In the past, we've been underestimating by $100,000, $120,000.
So the adjustment last year was 35,000, is that right? And you increased it by 35,000.
This was adjustment, should increase it by 35 now. But we don't know till the end of June.
And at the 130%, you're closer to, I wouldn't want to go that high.
Well, just remember, this 620 that we got as a commitment, if that's accurate, that counts as this year's money.
Right, no, I understand.
So this
2014 or 2015?
2014.
Because of calendar, even though we're...
Because it came in calendar year 14, and we're going to collect it in fiscal year 14, which ends this June. All right?
So you're saying this, okay.
There's another way of doing this that says that really this year our excise taxes, our motor vehicle is going to be closer to 800,000.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't. There's no point in changing that right now.
2014, no.
For 2014, right?
No, we can't. We just know that we're going to bank that in free cash.
Right.
Yeah, we can't go back at this point, I don't think. We can't go back to...
I don't think either of the methods are particularly bad.
What's going on all this other...
That's just a recap.
Well, no, remember, we don't get this commitment until the last week in January or the first week of February.
Right.
So what do you do when you're putting these numbers together in December and early January? What number do you use? That's what the other pages are.
Okay. But now we know the number. This number has come in.
This number has come in.
And it's not so far down the road that you can't wait for it to... when... you put a number in for the preliminary...
You're talking about what money are you going to collect starting this July through June of next year?
No, I get that. I'm just saying that...
And you know what? There's nothing, there's not even anything outside of our finances that you could use an actual predictor for that.
But what this says is that if you use 130%, you've based on 5 years of history, you're historically over by at least, I can't do all the average in my head, say it's 40 grand.
Yeah, 30 or 40 grand.
Okay? And so that's very comforting. That means even if you slice that 807, 063 down to 800, just for a nice even number, that's still $90,000 more than what we have in there now.
Let me add one more thing about this. This using the historical comparison works until there's a sudden change. Then you're toast.
So I would want to know, Julie, is there, if we did this, is there enough other cushion that if things become toast, that we won't be in a position come May of 2016 of not having money to pay people's salaries or continue services? I mean, if we don't adjust anything else in this, the other fees and other things that we think might be under, so that we would have a cushion, so we can see this play out. I mean, you can't see it play out, really.
Well, I'll let Julie answer, then I'll give you my opinion.
Okay, Julie, first you.
If you don't adjust the other ones, you may have enough cushion, but the other ones are even more unpredictable than this.
So it would be better not to adjust them. Yeah, Okay. There's more predictability in this?
This is more stable, yeah, less variability.
Yeah.
All right?
Okay.
I think we're going to do it, I think leaving the other revenue sources alone. I think we're going to do a good job of draining the swamp on the expense side and lower our free cash contribution to there this year. So,
We'll keep it tempting.
you know,
That's the goal.
That's the
what we're working
goal.
on.
That's the goal. But as this is new and we know we're going to lower the amount of cash coming back from the departments, you may want to raise your free cash target.
As a cushion.
As a cushion. And say, you know,
Why would you want to do that? I don't get why you...
I think just, given what Julie has said, I think we can, maybe it's 800,000, maybe it's 790, or maybe it's some number right around here that you raise it to. I don't know if you need to raise the cushion. Because I think that we have enough.
I'm just saying that's another way of...
I think we need a week to sort of sit back and look at it and look at what the other components are in revenue, but
you know, even if you go with the lower estimate here, you're adding almost $100,000.
No, I think we do it 800,000.
To the revenue. You're adding almost $100,000 to the revenue.
Yeah, but then we take 50 away from the ambulance too, let's keep that in mind, so.
Yes, do you have that for tonight or not? Okay, we'll do that, we'll put that on to next week. Yeah, we're losing revenue from, yeah.
I think this is, my mind gets around this better as more, as, you know, I'm glad you went back as many years as you did.
And this is all the data we have.
Yeah.
I would have gone back farther if we had more data.
I'm comforted that on that methodology, the past 5 years, we would have been just fine. Even if we were $8,000 short, it's not a big deal. Even if we're $20,000 short, it's not a big deal.
Right. That's why I want to make sure that there's enough, because it is a big deal.
Because
let's
go back on average, that we've been over on our budget expense estimates by a couple $100,000 every year.
Do you just have to look at the revenue against this, or can you look at the underspending to cover this? Okay. Yeah, and underspend and overspend. And over. Okay, well, I don't.
Those are the same.
Yeah. So as long as
it reduces our margin.
And I'm comforted by what Julie just had to say. So let's just go around the table. See. I mean, you probably want some more time to test it, but just initial thoughts on it.
Yeah, 135, 130 is fine with me. Either way, I'm good.
And when we go, I'm sorry, before we go around, we go in with this full well knowing that we could be wrong, and it's okay if we're wrong.
Yeah, because
I think it's okay if we're trying to be right. It's okay. You have to be willing to accept that you may be wrong.
Yeah.
It's a risk that I think we take eyes wide open because we've left so much money on the table the past 5 years.
Right, 5 years.
And the goal being that we want to true up with as hard as we work at truing up the expense side. We want to also make that same commitment to the revenue side.
And Julie will love me to say this, but if we come up short, we have no one to blame but ourselves, but our conviction was a 5-year historical look. And sometimes you got to do that stuff.
I agree. I think it's okay with being wrong. We would add one additional year with all the work that Bob's done. We'd add one additional year, and then so maybe we say, okay, 135 or 130 maybe isn't the answer, but maybe it's 120.
Right.
And so just the more years
The
we get out on
methodology, your point is the methodology's established.
Julie, what are your thoughts, besides it being stable? Let's do it. What are your thoughts?
I've deferred to you guys in coming up with the revenue estimates going forward.
Well, Bob started this saying that his first run through, you said it was flawed. The methodology.
Well, just because you wouldn't have that data. That's why I was saying it was flawed.
Yeah, okay.
He was trying to do it on something that he wouldn't have available to him.
So do you at least agree that the methodology is correct now?
Yes, the way it's set up.
The inputs are correct.
Stasha?
Question?
Sure.
So the commitment, how solid is that number? Is that, I mean, that's like, those are the,
That is
all
what's
of those-
committed.
yeah, so
There may
that's
be
solved.
abatements towards it, so you may not collect that.
Okay.
Plus people that don't pay their bill, you may not collect that.
Do we have
But
historical
that
numbers
is
on that?
billed.
Do we collect 95% of that number?
It's somewhere up there.
Okay, so we've got 95, we're 95% sure of this 620,
Typically,
basically.
if people default, it's on their house and not on their vehicle.
Okay, right. So based on just my opinion, based on, I hear that the group has agreed to a 5-year trend is pretty standard, and we've got 4 years here. And based on the fact that we've got 620 being a fairly larger number than past years, that this, I'm a little nervous about the anomaly year kind of factor there.
Yeah.
I would want to go in at the more conservative, but I'm good with that. Okay. David?
Yeah, in defense of the number that comes out with the 135, you look at national trends, there was a big increase in car sales, and they were pretty heavily concentrated on the more expensive trucks and SUVs. So I think that, while it is striking, that is what happened nationally, and it's not unreasonable that Bolton would reflect that. In fact, maybe reflect it a little more because we're an above-average income town, and that's where the heavy spending has occurred lately.
Remember that too, this is 2014's commitment, so everybody who bought the new car is paying 90%. Now, if the car is a year older, so now in 2015, it's gonna be less.
Right. But,
And all those people that have the new cars aren't gonna buy another new car.
and let's take the opposite side of Brad's point. Let's say you go in at the 130 this year.
That's how I feel.
If you say, oh, look, it came up at 823, then you turn around and say, okay, maybe it's 132 or something like that. You can go up just as well as you can go down. And maybe
Bake in one additional year.
maybe having one more year under your belt, you just, you take the more conservative route for the first year and then you adjust.
Right. And I would encourage it not to be an exact number like this, because it should, then it looks like we really did calculate it out, and it's a real number.
It should be 810 or something.
800.
800.
800, 810, 85. Right. So why don't we all think about it, and we'll make the decision. I mean, I think we're there, but are we there? Or do you want to go ahead and ask Julie to put in a number? Do we know what the number is? I would say 800.
I would too.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
That's good.
Good? 800.
Okay.
Okay.
And let me take you through the second half. Just so you can digest
Please.
it.
There's things on here I don't even understand. What is all this?
I know, it's very busy. And the second page didn't print out right.
Yeah, Judy, can you send it, can you ask Julie to email? Or Julie, Dylan to email it?
No.
No.
Because I don't want you staring at this because you misunderstand it. I'll go over the interim, the preliminary calculations next week.
Okay, okay, good.
So where do you want us?
No, we're not doing,
No,
we're not going over it. You're gonna go over it next week, so bring this to me next week.
No, we'll get clean
Okay, clean copies
copies.
next
We'll
week.
get clean copies next week.
Okay.
This is pretty bad.
Ambulance reserves next week?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay, that's okay. Okay, you want to look at the advisory worksheet? This, throw away your other ones, guys. It's hard. I didn't get all, sometimes my sons, nobody's caught me yet. Nobody has caught me, which I'm very happy to
Oh, any
have.
mistakes?
Not really
That's
mistakes, it must have been made by the, yeah.
That's all. No big deal.
So,
Brothers.
thank you. So I did it a little bit different. Yeah, here you go. So, did a little bit differently. So the 113,708 is from Julie's worksheet, which includes the 577,893 NRSD assessment plus other adjustments that were made from last week. We don't have the COLA for the union contracts yet, or the COLA. Julie's going to have time, she believes, to go through it this week. We'll have that number in next week's worksheet, so you can take it or leave it. So then we have the free cash balance with the minimum reserve, so the total available is $921, but we really only have something less than $80,000 of of money left for operating expenses, because we typically do not use free cash for operating, and that doesn't come in, I don't know what we did today.
You might as well take the 50,000 from the ambulance service out of that, so.
Well, I don't have it yet, so I was waiting for it. Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. It's just, yeah, but then we just added 90,000,
Okay.
so we'll get back to it and see.
921 was really 961, think of it that way.
Yeah, or some amount. Okay, and then, it's still too hard to talk about a lot of these expenditures because they're duplicate, and we do have, I'm not sure what day, we do have capital planning coming in. So, I don't know if anybody wants to talk. I know that John Manser wants to come in and talk to us about actually purchasing some Jaws of Life now, because we don't have any that are working properly, and he's concerned about the loaner being taken back, and it's not really adequate. So I don't have a date for when he's coming in, but it'll be probably a week or so to talk about that, which then may tie a little bit into the rescue equipment of $47,000.
Library cameras.
Yeah, so this is it shouldn't say library cam.
Okay.
It should say cameras.
Let me talk about library cameras.
Okay, so
I'm not sure that the money the library has left over from its building fund, I'm not sure all of it's going to be necessary.
It's not.
To paint the windows?
To paint the windows.
But there was a question that this doesn't really fall into, that the reason that now Julie's in on this discussion, because the reason that they're able to use that money left over from the original building of the library for the painting is because it was related to some poor workmanship. This was and I brought this up before, and
it was a donation.
It was a donation, right? But everybody has said that won't fall in. So I don't know, Julie, what your thoughts are on that. But that wouldn't be able. So we wouldn't be able to use that borrowing to cover.
You could for the library.
Could for the library?
Yeah, I guess it's faulty equipment.
But then there's some exterior as well that wasn't included. So the $10,370 have to go break out the piece of it that's interior and the piece of it that's exterior.
I think the big thing, and Julie, correct me if I'm wrong, is we can't use the library borrowing excess to go pay for fixes at the fire station.
Right.
It's library to library.
Repairs or maintenance
Right.
at the library either, unless it was something that, if it was faulty.
Yeah, these cameras failed in less than the regular lifetime of a new camera.
These are interior only.
Right. And yours hung up with, we're putting exterior that we never had. But then you could make the argument that the library's got money left over. They didn't include it in the first go-round, and now they're still implementing it into the building.
Even if it's only the interior, there's still money from an article that's possibly available. The other thing I'd like to put on the table here is, and I don't have the detail in front of me, but there are, on Julie's other available funds page, there's a bunch of borrowings at the bottom where she says available next to it.
It's a total of $112,000. We've talked about that.
Okay. Now, a lot of that, some of those are directly tied to outstanding debt that hasn't been paid off yet. And because these are bans, we could take that available money and just lower the amount of debt that's outstanding without any effect on the taxpayer at all. We can't do it for all of those different articles, but we can do it for the Weatherby land.
Yes.
So I think the Weatherby land has $84,000 available, but there's something like $176,000 in principal outstanding. So why not take that cash and just apply it against the principal, lower our future interest rates?
Yes.
Yeah.
Stuff, there's 2 or 3 articles, there's 2 or 3 things like that we could do.
Is that possible to do, Julie?
That should be able to be done on a ban, if it wasn't, but not on like the library stuff, because that was bonded.
Right.
Fine, so the conservation was the ban, and anything of the other, so on the, how about the school Emerson well improvements?
That is a ban.
That's a ban. And the sewer?
That is a ban.
And the last one,
It's listed in the back on the
okay.
that detail, okay.
and the last one is the public safety, maybe they,
That
The
was-
building? No, that's a bond.
that's a bond, okay.
How confusing is the article language to do that? They'd have to be separate articles, right?
If to pay the money down, you don't have to do an article.
Really? Using the available funds, we don't have to have town meeting appropriate the remaining variable funds from a previous borrowing to pay down said borrowing?
No.
All right, well then, that's...
Does it have to go to the selectmen?
No.
Who
approves
Don,
it,
can you
Don?
just pay this down?
Did Dawn approve, how does this get
I
done?
believe it can just be done when she goes to renew the ban, she just renews it for less money.
Do it. I mean, we're trying to clean that stuff up for a
Yeah.
long time, and if we can use it
Yeah.
to
And that's-
offset our future debt stream and reduce our debt, then
Yeah.
that's great. And that actually has a fiscal year 15 implication if we do that now.
Yes.
So we can do it at any time?
Well,
You have to wait when the ban comes up, which is in June.
yeah,
Okay,
all
so,
that stuff turns over in June. All the bands turn over the same day in June.
But if
before the
we,
end of the...
Yeah, before the end of this
but if we
fiscal.
have the power, and we instruct Donna to do that, and she recalculates the interest stream on the
And that will
outstanding
come
debt,
back.
that
That will go
would come
September
down in fiscal
2015,
15.
yeah. Okay, and we can do that, I guess, according to... Okay, so do we need to vote on it? I would think so.
Let me talk with Dawn about the process for doing that.
Okay, and the other piece, and this is small, is up in the available funds, there's $10,000 sitting out for school space needs. Julie and I have talked about this as well. This is, the school space needs, this is from an article in May 2006, and the school space needs committee doesn't even exist any longer. This can come back into free cash, but not until July, it'd be certified July 1st, 2015.
Well, it can be used,
2014.
it can be used at a town meeting article, but it has to be released by the Board of Selectmen, and Dawn tells me it's on their agenda for the next meeting.
Okay.
Can we go back to the ban thing for a second? Julie, do you see any downfall in doing it? Isn't that a no-brainer to do?
No, it works.
Yeah, that's great. Why do we
Okay,
do
why
that
do we do
before?
this before? Yeah, okay. That's all right, we can do it now.
That Weatherby grant that
Yeah.
came in,
Yeah.
that $84,000 is part of the free cash excess that
That's-
we...
yes, that's right.
part of the big surprise.
Yes, it was.
All right, that's why we haven't done it before, is because we didn't have that money before.
Yeah, but it's not part of certified free cash.
Yeah, you look at the reconciliation, and
You
it's...
got a grant. You had appropriated the entire amount.
I know we got a grant, yeah, and that came in this year.
So, but do we need to, so we're gonna double benefit for it then, right? Well, what I'm saying is then do we need to take it out of some of this free cash that we're using in the fiscal 15 budget?
Because we
Wait a
were
minute, if it's tied up, it shouldn't be in there in the
Well,
first
that was
place.
my
Yeah.
initial argument.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so,
But it was part of the reconciliation for free
That was
cash.
the grant, the deficit. You got hit for the deficit.
we're looking for a
deficit.
deficit even though we had money left on the borrowing and all that. See, I don't,
No, I think,
They're two separate things.
how come we've gotten hit on the deficit?
Because the grant, you didn't have the money.
Was it
for the
timing
grant.
thing? Okay.
Yeah, it was a
That didn't
timing
come in
thing.
until like July or August.
So this should be neutral then, though. I'd say.
wait a minute, I'm still confused. So we borrowed the $250 for Weatherby, but we only paid out $116?
No, you paid out the entire amount.
$250.
Then we
Then we got
grant
back an 84, then we got
Then we got
back
an
$84,000.
$84,000 grant,
Mhm.
which
So that's in-
is against this? It's being held against the article?
No,
Because it's...
Well, where'd this $84,000 come from then?
it came from the state.
No, this $84,000.
Oh, because you had borrowed the entire amount.
But we spent the entire amount.
But you didn't spend the entire amount of those funds. You spent that, less the grant.
So we borrowed
Or 250.
We borrowed $250, we paid $250, but we paid $250 with $82 from a grant and 100 and something from the
From
250 we borrow,
Right.
and then we
have a
have
balance.
the 82 left. So then I get that, so there is still 82 grand left in an appropriated account that's only can be used for Weatherby,
Right.
but then that should not have affected free cash.
Right.
Well, yes, because your grant at the end of the year had a deficit.
Yeah, it was
Oh, I
because it was
see.
a timing difference.
So over 2 years, it was a
Yeah.
neutral thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
All right, so then it would have shown up in 1 year, but then you would have seen it come out in another year if you looked side by side at the free cash.
Right, you got hit for 1 year and then
And
you
you got
got
it
it
money
back.
back, so it was, so this.
Okay, so then we're treating it fine. So it doesn't affect this. It's truly a portion money that sits in a side fund, not in certified free cash, that we should use to apply to the outstanding debt, and then thereby recognize the state grant. Right now, we haven't, in our financial cap, we haven't recognized the state grant.
Because we have.
No, we haven't recognized it on our on our debt. I mean,
No,
we have we have an asset and we have a liability that offset each other. We're
right.
extinguishing it.
Okay.
So we recognize it through the income statement, but right now you have 82 grand in cash and you have 82 grand more of debt, of a liability that you should have.
Okay.
And what Julie's doing is neutral to the balance sheet, but it does have an impact on future income statements because your interest expense on the debt will be lower.
Okay.
So you have this, that'll be good, 112,000, okay. So do we need to vote on this?
But let me talk with Don about that.
Oh, that's right, you wanted to talk to Don.
I have to make sure that the other ones still have outstanding amounts. I know that Weatherby does, but the other ones,
You can have question marks about it.
Yeah, there's just.
no, whether or not there's outstanding debt,
Oh, okay.
if it's been paid off or
And
not.
if there's not, then what's our recourse to extinguish, is to have town meeting vote to apportion that to something else and use it in a spending article like we have done before.
But it's gotta be for another borrow.
Right.
Something you would have borrowed,
Vehicle
no,
type thing.
it has, something you would have borrowed for, it doesn't have to be another borrowing.
But, yeah, you're not gonna be borrowing,
Borrowing,
you're gonna
you
use it
use
as a
it,
borrow.
yeah.
But
So
it can't be for,
paint, for buying some software.
yeah, well,
No,
so wait,
could be.
yeah.
All right.
Let's see, let's find a repair, repairing a truck.
Does it, how much does it have to be
And the old
in like
fire
kind?
No,
It doesn't.
It
because
doesn't,
town
it just
meeting
has to be.
apportions the reuse.
so we'll have that
So you could do it
$10,000.
for the fire truck, you could do it for the DPW truck,
Yeah,
something like
so it's
that.
26,000.
So we could pay for a DPW truck with 50 grand of free cash and 20 grand of
Yeah.
a old borrowing.
And then can we use this 10,000 as well for that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we even have this 10,000, we have $36,000.
The problem with that though is that there's debt on the books that says,
She doesn't know if there's debt still outstanding.
well, she's gonna check, but if
Yeah.
there is, if we did borrow for what it was originally apportioned for, it will show up on the debt schedule as borrowing for X. And we reapportioned a piece of it to pay for Y. And you'll always lose, you'll still have a debt stream for X that really, a piece of it relates to Y. That's the only problem.
Yeah.
But there's no way around that.
Well, could we also take this money, like money left over from the sewer force main, and use that against the Weatherby debt? But I can use it for something else out of the clear blue sky that I might have borrowed from.
But you need town meeting to vote on that.
Okay, it doesn't make much sense.
Well, but it doesn't have to make sense, but it was,
Yeah.
yeah, 10, I mean, it still gives us the money to spend, I mean, to use, that we don't have to use.
Still money.
It's still money.
Money's money.
Okay, so I'm gonna start to show this stuff too. Okay. Okay, so let's see if there's anything else we have to go through.
Hope there was no.
Anything else? Oh, so I'm hoping that we don't, on these school things, that they take care of them. Trying to say, use your E&D for this.
Can we vote on this?
Yeah.
And
I already put an X, so.
this return excess funds to taxpayers, to my way of thinking, that should be tied into the fire apparatus.
You can tie it in any way you want, but I don't see it. I mean, I don't think it's an either or. I'm not gonna. I had it up there and I removed it because I think it's So you need to look at it as it stands. You can't, I mean, you probably, well, but we can talk about it, but I think that it gets lost if you put it up there and it's...
No, I think we said that we need to think about it as any other capital request, regardless of where you put it here. It's still, I'm still thinking about it as any worthy of any of these other things.
Okay.
Did we ever get an idea as to why the school, is Caleri coming in to talk about why he hasn't done anything with the money we gave him last year? Or is that just gonna go away?
It's basically that they, well, I don't want to pay another $12,000, but basically what they said on...
But is he coming in?
Yeah, he's coming in, they'll clear his schedule. Yeah, he's coming in a while. They had to evaluate whether propane was a better...
No, but I'm talking about the locks and stuff they haven't done.
My impression was...
I think they spent what they're going to spend.
My impression was they got a deal, they'd get a better deal if they went out and they bought more.
They didn't address it. They don't, you don't remember
there's not a good track record
just
there
a boiler.
No, I do remember the lock Saturday. I do remember he was talking about locks and
talking a lot about locks.
Yeah, and some of them did get replaced, and I think Bob might be onto something. And now they found more that they want to do, and
yeah, so they stopped the whole project. But
it's
the track record is, and this sort of started with the sewer extension, the water extension sewer issue, where we gave them money, they didn't do anything for 2 years, and then when they went to do something, they found out it was another $30,000 more.
Right.
And now, we gave them money to do the locks and the doors, and they haven't done anything, and now it's more expensive to do it. And
there's nothing I hear. No.
And so, he's got to hear from us. He's got to hurry up and he's got to spend that money on to get done what he told us he'd get done.
Yeah, I think it speaks, and we have town departments that do the same thing. It's like you said, it's especially when you have written in the article that it's for the protection of our poor children. Like the boiler's going to blow up, and the insurance company says you have to spend the money.
You know what's happened? It's the athletic field and the concession stand that have absorbed all of his energy.
I've been reading in the paper that the Five-Shire folks are so excited because the bids are coming in within the $250 that we gave them. Well, what is this $40,000?
This is going to go away. It's going to go away. But the problem they opened up all the bids. They had two bids. They had a lot more than that, but they had two bids that they were interested in. The spread was a little bit more, I haven't been back in touch with this a couple weeks ago. Spread didn't make a lot of sense, so they wanted the engineer to take a look at it and say, is the one that's $30,000, I'm just using a number, $30,000 less, is there a reason why, is it really doing the work?
So $40,000 to see?
No. She put this in, I'm sure this isn't going to even be needed. They've got $3,600 that they could spend. No, it's going to go away. I'll see if I can...
That was there because they wanted a placeholder.
They hadn't opened up.
They wanted a placeholder when Don asked them for articles, just in case the bids came in higher than expected.
Yeah.
The highest bid they got, according to the newspaper, was $260.
I read that, which is $10,000 over what we gave them.
But the budget that they're looking at is much, I mean, the bids they're looking at are less than what we gave them, and so that should be good.
Well, then we'll have more money to reapportion.
More?
A year from now.
Yeah. Oh, I got it. Okay, any other discussion?
One thing.
There's no selectmen meeting this Thursday, in case you haven't seen it.
Did Donna already borrow the $250 for the Five-Shire?
Yes.
So, just procedurally, why do we do that? Is it to lock in the rate of the time when town meeting, because town meeting votes to authorize the borrowing, it doesn't tell you gotta borrow it right away. And so and maybe it works out great in the interest rate, but we borrowed for something a year ago that $250 sitting on our books and we haven't used it for anything.
Let Julie answer. Let Julie answer.
Let Bob answer, that's fine.
If she didn't borrow it last June, she'd have to wait till this June to borrow it, and she missed the frozen ground construction season.
Why would she miss the, she can borrow it anytime she wants.
We only do the bands in June. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Is that so? Well, so that makes sense, actually. Because what he said.
So I'm surmising that she went to talk to Carol Gumbart and said, when do you think you're going to need this money? Carol said late winter, early spring, and she said, okay, I'm going to include it in my next round.
Okay, because in a perfect world, we apportion 250, which is the estimate, you get the bid, it's 220, Donna goes out and borrows 220.
Right, I understand.
Okay, and then we don't have to clean anything up.
Right.
All right, I get it.
Anything else?
We adjourn.
Okay. No, now don't rush, guys. It is, oh, we got through almost 10 minutes earlier.
First time in a long time.
All those in favor?
Okay, thank you all.
All those in favor?
Oh, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I had a little tear in my